Okay, Roger, sorry, well, go ahead, Roger.
I just thought this is not a comment. I just wanted to tell you I sent you a spreadsheet just now with the totals.
Okay.
With the understanding that that's a little rough and ready.
Yeah, understood. I'm gonna introduce that. I'm back again in a minute. I'm gonna ask you to further help out during this meeting, and if you're willing to, great. If not, you don't have to.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay. So I think we're now recording, and Nikki's host. Okay, sorry. Calling to order the fourth and, God willing, the final day of the 2022 EDC annual meetings. It is March 23rd. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda, which has only
John, I have a comment. If Joe and Todd can move down a little bit, we'll be able to see them both. Right now, we can't quite see Todd. That'd be great to be able to see him.
He's restricted by a power cable. Are there more?
Okay. Oh well. Don't worry about it then, Todd. If you got a power issue.
Well, here, you know what? I can do this so you can see Mike. Well, that's all right. I can move closer here.
Do that.
No, it's not that important, John. It's not that important.
Okay.
You can hear us.
All right. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No, hearing none. All right. Citizen comments. And for those of you that are not members of the EDC, we are deliberating tonight. So after citizen comments, we're not going to be calling on members of the public. We have, I don't know, 150 comments from the public that we've been reviewing. We have copies of them here, and we'll consult them during our deliberations. But we're not expecting to have time to take comments from the public. But we have been taking comments in the chat room and online for the last 2 weeks. So we do, though, are required at every meeting to have a section on citizen comments. So we'll take 10 minutes if there are comments from non-EDC members. If you can just raise your hand, you can click, or just turn your camera on and wave.
Roger's got his hand up.
Yeah, I've got that. And if not, then it's under the reactions. I don't have that now. It's under this. Yeah. Well, anyway, what is it under? Reactions?
It's under reactions, right at the bottom of reactions.
I don't have, and that's where you can raise your hand or just turn your camera on and wave your hand. Okay, Roger.
I just want to make a real quick comment, and I know this is very late in the game for this, but there's clearly an overwhelming sense that there's a need for some kind of attempt to solve the childcare problem. And I'm suggesting, I'm not necessarily saying you should or shouldn't, but I'm suggesting that you might want to consider putting aside a certain amount of money for projects that have not yet come in. I know that's stepping outside of the process, but this is clearly there's a groundswell of chatter about this. So I would consider potentially putting aside some money. I would also potentially consider putting together one of your working committees to address this as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Roger. Now, let me just respond very briefly to that. Very briefly. Several EDC members have already held meetings with some experts on childcare, and we've already discussed creating a working group. Let me just leave it at that for tonight, but we'll definitely put this on the agenda for our next meeting. And I think we have the financial flexibility to deal with hoped for applications later in the year or when they come, so that we will, given the priority, I think we will have the financial flexibility to take the right actions. So, yeah, so thank you for that comment. And just wanted to make a quick reaction. Are there other questions from non-EDC members or comments? Sorry. All right, I see none. Okay. All right, let's get started. And what I'd like to do, first of all, is just a quick process point. Roger has compiled a rough sense of a count of the comments. The page that you have in front of you in the public comments document, if someone writes 3 paragraphs, it sounds like there are 3 people saying, I'm in favor, I'm in favor, I'm in favor, or I'm opposed, I'm opposed, I'm opposed. So someone who writes one really long supportive or negative comment gets lots of lines. Roger has counted things properly. And so, Roger, what I'll ask you to do is when we start talking about a particular grant, if you would just, if there are public comments that are disproportionately negative or positive, if they're kind of normal split, don't mention it. But if they're disproportionately positive or negative, then if you would raise that and just sort of raise your hand and introduce that, that would be helpful. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So if we look at this again, just looking at the scorecard of opinions, not of votes. And again, sorry, just for the folks from the non-EDC members who weren't here last night, the way we're going to do this is we're going to talk, we're going to go through, we're going to use this sheet that's on the screen to guide the sequence of our discussions. And we're not going to vote until the end. And our votes, people will enter into the app. They may keep it exactly the same. They may change things, and we'll push the button and it'll re-add things up. Anything with 5 votes or more requires a 5 out of 9 votes. Even if people are recused, it still requires 5 votes. Anything that's 5 will be recommended to the select board to be funded. As we come in now, as you can see here, there are 16 of the 28 grants that have 5 or more opinions. And that totals about $270,000. We expect to get about $300,000 this year. So that's sort of within the range, plus or minus, of what our annual revenues would be if we decide to stick with our annual revenues.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? The number.
It's okay. It's at the top of the page. There's 16 out of 29 grants, 16 out of 28.
Yeah.
And that will change as we change.
John, just a technical question, John. If we do change our vote, do we have to go back to our page to change it?
Yes.
Thank you.
You each, because there's going to be a period. What I'm going to suggest at the end of our discussion is we sort of take a silent 10 minutes until everyone raises their hand and says, I'm done. And then we push the button, and that's, and we will have one other cycle. If it adds up to 800,000, well, if it adds up to 500,000, I think we will have a quick discussion per your question last night, Marion. Say,
moment prayer.
right. So at the end, it will just be quiet and everyone will go back to their page, enter their things and so forth. So you should be on the site now, whether it's on your page or on this page.
That's what I got. Yeah.
Yeah, is everyone remotely on their page too? And by the way, you can feel free to enter things anytime you want. It's, if I won't refresh the page, or I'll do it from time to time, but okay. So maybe
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. I can't see who that is. Deborah.
It's Deb. Okay, so the raising of the hand thing doesn't work. Okay.
No, it does work.
ones-
I wasn't looking, so keep doing it.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. As long as you can see it. So the ones that have already quote passed or that have enough, if we have some questions or some things we want to add to it, are we still going to have a chance to talk to it, or is it
Yes.
we don't talk about those?
Yeah, and I think we're going to go through. We're going to
Go
go
through
through
them. Okay.
all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to start with the items that are in the middle, where there's a chance that a couple people might shift their initial opinions based on the discussion. That's where I think we need the most discussion. Then I think we'll go to the ones at
You
the
have a
bottom.
tracking system so that we don't miss one.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah. So let's just start with the ones that have 6 votes and go down from there. Starting with Village Beautification Project. And I guess the way I would start this is to sort of ask the folks who didn't rate it, who didn't vote for it, since the majority did, what are the questions or concerns? What would keep you, from what would keep you from voting for it? Or what questions or comments do you have? Or was it just, you think you understand it? It's just
3 medium vote. Maybe that's the.
Yeah.
Which that would like the comment if they click.
Marion, Patrick, and Todd.
Okay, the reason I voted medium is because this is one of those questions that I struggle with of shouldn't the town be doing this? It is the town's property it is. So, that's why I voted medium. I can be convinced in any other way. But I have this struggle between what I think town responsibility is versus EDC responsibility. So that was why I voted medium.
My medium was a little bit of that, and also just trying to get sort of in the perspective of everything. It seemed like a nice to have, but I wasn't sure how exactly it fit the EDC mission. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Todd,
I'd like
anything
to
you wanna
hear
add,
more
or-
discussion of it. I just wasn't sure.
Okay. Anyone want to, that all seems reasonable. Anyone who's strongly in favor of this want to comment on that, or should we move
Todd,
on?
any comment from Todd?
No.
No, I mean, my comment is it has enough votes and I'm not against it. I was just sort of curious where it would land. So I'm very
Okay.
happy that it's going the way it's going.
Anyone want to comment on the positive side?
I can say a couple words about it. Yeah, I can understand how you would feel that it's a town responsibility to do that, but we started with the bench thing. And seemed reasonable that if more is needed, it would fall within our realm since we initiated it. And I walk by those things, the holes in the ground on Central Street every day. And it's just plain ugly. And it's not a lot of money. Obviously, the town is never even thinking about it, or the village. So in the vein of Teagle's Landing, trying to make it more welcoming and appealing to both visitors and residents, for very little money, we could have that effect.
All right, any
Joe,
other?
Can I ask Joe a question?
Yes.
Joe, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Does the town mulch those or anything, or are they just mud holes?
That was the question.
Does the town mulch the trees, or is it just?
No, they do nothing to them.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other comments? I'm just going to move on. And by the way, for those of you that are,
Sorry, can I just, I didn't have a question until that just was said, that the town doesn't mulch them. So then who ensures that they stay alive and that, they're not gonna fall into disrepair again?
Well, Mika, they're not fertilized. They're not maintained in any way, shape, or form. They're just living on their own merits right now. So I think if new ones are put in, once they're rooted, maintenance probably won't be it won't probably be any necessary maintenance at all.
Sure, once they're rooted, but until
Yeah,
then,
that takes probably the first year.
okay. Okay,
And I talked to Ty Benoit about it, and it didn't seem like a very big project. He went, yeah, I can do it, no problem. So,
okay, thank you.
yes,
just a quick comment for those who were not here last night, which is most of the non-EDC members. Some of these discussions may seem cursory, like this one. I just want to be very clear. We've spent 14 hours to date, 13 hours discussing these 28 proposals, getting information about them. So I just want to say that what we're now doing is kind of synthesizing. And so in some cases, we're just going to move on, as we're going to do on this one. In other cases, we may have longer discussions, but I just want to be clear that if you're sort of tuning in for the first time, as a number of you are, we're not making decisions based on a 2-minute discussion. We
Hey,
spent a
John,
lot of time on these.
I want to make one more comment on this. If we decide that this is something we want to do, I would make a comment to increase the amount a little bit, and for 2 reasons. One is we should mulch all the trees. And 2, there should be someone who pays attention whether the trees stay alive for the first year. Because if no one's looking at them, so just Just a thought.
Is it that they're not mulching them, or they're not watering them, or they're not fertilizing them?
Well,
or
hold
they're
on,
just putting
does the
trees
project
in?
include, yeah, or maybe that you're asking, does the project include
The
the cost?
project, no. Well, yes and no. There is extra money that I thought would be needed. Because the last time I spoke with Cy about this was a year ago. I'm saying, well, prices might have gone up. And if they haven't, we can use the extra money for specifically stuff like that. I thought something around the base of the tree to make sure that they stay healthy for a while anyway, until they get rooted. Would be.
Okay. Somebody put a note in the chat, RB, I'm not sure who RB is, trees in the village are the responsibility of the village arborist.
We have.
Yeah, Ray, it must be Ray, and Ray is, would know.
Bourgeois.
Yeah.
Yes.
What
was the
Yes, Ray.
And he said the mulch just gets kicked out, should be tree grates or bricks, brick pavers. So again, just everyone in the chat, you'll see.
Grapes are
Make-
very expensive. And they're temporary, because as the tree grows, the grape starts to get too small for the tree. So my thought was using some type of natural foundation for the tree, some sort of stones or rocks that are big enough so if somebody steps on one, it just doesn't go flying out of the way. And it's something I was going to talk to Cy about.
Well, just to be clear, this is, we're talking about putting 3 trees in, adding to 30 trees,
Yeah,
right? So the
exactly.
town is responsible for 33 trees.
Yeah.
So there's already a plan.
Okay.
There's either a plan or not, but I guess my view is if we want to put a plan in to take care of all of the town's trees, I don't think that this
No,
proposal
that
does
is
that.
what this is
I didn't
about.
realize there's that many
Trying to
trees.
replace
Yeah.
the empty spots that are there now that were previously occupied by healthy trees. That's all.
Okay. I take back my comment. I didn't realize there were that many
Okay.
trees.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. The next one is the Woodstock streetscape enhancement. That's the, yeah, that's actually that's actually the trees. This first one was the flowers and the
Oh,
and the
yeah.
lights.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we talked about them in an opposite order.
Yeah, you had them backwards.
Yeah. But again, Marion, Patrick, and so the same 3 people. So it's just sort of the same probably logic. Any new comments about that one on either side?
No, but so the trees, I'm getting mixed up as to which one was which. I want to make sure I.
Okay, so the village beautification, the one we just talked about was Woodstock streetscape enhancement,
Which was the.
trees and the
flowers.
benches
Okay, streetscape enhancement is trees, okay.
and benches. Woodstock village beautification is flowers and lights.
$9,000.
They're both about $9,000. For what it's worth, if I can just share my point of view about both of these and some others as well, and it connects a little bit to what some of you said. I forgot now who. I would like us to get to a place, and I think we're moving closer, step by step, to a place where all of these $5,000 and $10,000 grants are considered things that are nice to have, but we reject them because we need to put $500,000 into housing and some large, rebuild Vale Field or rebuild the hockey rink or rebuild, the East End, put bathrooms into the East End Park or do something that costs a lot of money and not because we want it to cost a lot of money, but because it will have a big impact. Until then, I feel like we have an obligation to do some projects that a lot of people like. And the town isn't really, to be honest, isn't really quite ready to accept the EDC saying, we're not going to pay for the lights because it's not real economic. It's not as big economic development as housing. I'm not sure the town will ever be ready for that. I'm not even sure that the EDC members would unanimously agree to that. I'm not even sure I would. But I think that until then, we should continue, as we've done in the past years, to use our judgment. And where there are things that benefit a very wide group, they're not very expensive. Most people seem to be in support of them. I don't feel any problem. And they're good for the town. They're good for, they help keep residents here and they help the visitors.
Yeah.
Then I feel like it's part of our mission and it's fine to do that. I hope we will crowd those out in the future, but we haven't gotten.
That's
May I-
helpful for me to.
The preliminary survey suggests that everyone's in agreement with your point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're
Yeah,
fine. with it.
just to expand very quickly on that same subject, there will come a day when we're gonna have to spend a lot of money on something.
Right.
And in the interest, in my favorite word, buzzword is and always will be is hospitality. In the interest of hospitality, and people coming into town and seeing things cleaned up and looking good and appealing and comfortable. And those little things that we can do now and get them done. It's done, it's over with. Now we can, we have time and money to go on other things. That's my feeling about it.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the first 2 6s and sort of in the middle here. Let's just keep
No, we
going.
didn't, John, you didn't let any of us M's talk.
Oh, sorry. I asked if there were any other comments. Sorry. Would you like to go ahead, Patrick?
Yeah.
You have something different to say?
My problem right now with the beautification project is kind of in line a little bit with what you said, but more, again, I feel this is a town thing. The town should be doing this. It should be a regular thing by the town. And it's going to be coming back to the EDC every year to do it. And, so my question is how can this be taken care of, without, I feel like we're picking up things that should be being done by other people. So that's my comment on this one.
I don't have an argument with that.
Yeah.
I really don't. And philosophically, I think you're right, but it's not being done. There are little things that can really make a difference. And we have the time and the money to do it now. So
Joe, I can't disagree with you on any of that, which is why I made it a
I'm
meeting.
not disagreeing on anything while we're talking.
No.
Because these are the types of things that the EDC that we need to start thinking about.
Yeah, sure.
When we do redefine or refine what we're about. So I'm just raising it now so that understand why I made it an M. That's all.
Todd and then Mika and then Deborah.
I mean, I think I thought about a lot of these things. We all have a lot of time. And I've changed my mind on a few of them, to be honest. For me, mediums are like, you'd have to convince me that it should be a no. And I lean toward yes. That's how I sort of did my survey. But I want everyone knows my position on the lights and the trees and the benches. And I think it's in a future EDC, I hope that that's not a possible thing to fund, like John was saying, but this is where we are now. And this is the funding we have now, and these things need to be done now. So I think we can continue to voice that it doesn't seem like the most appropriate way to go about it, but we need it. The town needs it. The hospitality is a great word, Joe. So I'm fully in favor of it while I'm fully against it, which is the paradox of economic development. But yeah, we're going to move in a direction of projects that have bigger impact, but we're not there yet. And so there you go.
I think one way to look at it too is say, if we didn't fund it and it wasn't going to happen, then how would the town look at that?
Yeah.
And I think that's bad news if we actually don't have this.
Or how would it be funded? That's my other question is there would be
No, but if it weren't going to be funded,
would there be another way? But they've done it another way before. So actually Mika's.
Okay. Yeah. Mika and then Deborah. Sorry.
I think that everything that everybody is saying is right on point, and perhaps this is one of those times when a work group of sorts could come together to try and find outside funding. I mean, there's no doubt that lights and flower baskets need to happen, as Mike just said. If we didn't pay for it, the town's not going to pay for it. The town doesn't have any money. We all know that. That's why people come to the EDC, because we're the only place in town that has any funds. So, I mean, I can imagine that this is a great corporate opportunity. There might be some private philanthropists between corporate philanthropy and private philanthropy. I think this could be taken care of. It's frustrating that lights and flower baskets are a regular conversation, because I don't think they should be a regular conversation. We talk about this every year. We have been for as long as I've been on the EDC. It's an important part of the town. It's not being paid for by anybody else. We have to take care of it. But I think that there are other funds. So maybe there's a work group that can come together and try to find those other funds so that we're not funding it anymore.
Deborah.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of been said, but I just want to reiterate, that's how I view my M's is that it's, heading towards a yes. I just want to have a little more discussion to understand, but so I'm happy with where my M's have ended up. But again, it's just the recognition of we are where we are, and we need deeper conversations to be able to come up with the big ideas, like we talked about when I first came on board, the idea of really looking into what area are we going to tackle, really go after it for a couple of years and make a substantial difference in the community. In the meantime, all the smaller projects that, I mean, I think that it's going to assist the community. And at the same time, I want us to note that within these grants, we have two major things that will help other smaller projects that come up over the next year. There's three actually. There's the grant program, or having the grant manager. There is the program, Patrick, what's the one? I can't read it, but where there's the startup, there are a number of different ways in which we can offer to get people who didn't put a grant in right now because they weren't sure of where it was going to come back to us and find a way to help them out. So I think those are in good shape, and to support is great.
Okay, and Mika, your suggestion about creating a group to pursue funding, we can discuss it. We can discuss whether or not we want to make this grant contingent on that, or whether we simply want to go ahead and set the money aside, but try to have a grant. And I mean, obviously, if there's other funds that are available, this grant will get reduced. So, that's.
Sorry, to be clear, I was not trying to imply that we should, make it contingent on that. It's just a suggestion so that we're not having this conversation next year.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments on these first two? Oh, Marion, sorry.
Just quickly related is, as we go forward and we start assessing this, I would be interested in, if we feel like this is the only way to do it and it's important to the community, maybe we don't do a grant every year. Maybe we allocate, a certain amount that the EDC spends on beautification every year. I think there might be simpler ways than doing the deep discussion every year.
That topic has been discussed.
Yeah, it has been discussed. I think actually, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
okay, let's move on. The smartphone app. This is a very, we don't have to speed up actually, but the implications of not speeding up are that we're probably going to need 2 nights, which is fine. Visit the smartphone app. Again, let's see, Marion, Patrick, and Michael. Anyone want to, oh, sorry, I'm reading it wrong. Marion, Patrick, and Deborah.
So I have opinions, but if we have enough yeses to pass it, then I don't think it's worth.
Okay.
I agree.
discussing them.
Is anyone who voted high unsure and would like to be convinced not to? No, okay, all right, let's keep going, that's fine.
great.
4th of July fireworks. Michael, Marion, and Patrick.
Yeah, this is kind of like the flower baskets and the lights, right? So I'm kind of like, we didn't do fireworks last year and I didn't really notice.
Well, that's because there was no, it's not that we didn't fund it, there were none.
Right, that's what I mean. There were no
Yeah.
fireworks and I didn't really notice, but
Was it-
like,
Oh.
I would
Remember, or
notice,
was it the year before they weren't?
but I would notice if there weren't lights and flowers. That's the big difference. So that's kind of where, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a fun time down at the high school,
Because it goes down every day and that's where the flowers and lights are.
but it's a daily thing. This is
Yeah.
a one-time thing, but I get
You're
it.
right.
It's
I
an
agree
American
with you.
celebration and it's a great holiday, but at the same time, it's a recurring thing. And it's kind of like, so this is another one of those items, but I just felt like, hey, flower baskets and lights are much higher on my priority list than fireworks.
Other comments?
To Michael's point, I would agree with him. And part of the thing here is with a lot of these, to me, is there's other funding opportunities. And I think that's where the grants manager kind of person can help with some of this stuff. So again, like Todd said, which I thought was well said, M's convinced me it's an L. So
In other words, you're going to vote, you might vote yes, unless someone convinces you it's a low.
yeah.
Okay.
These are
I'm
ones
not
I'm-
pushing pressure on you. I just wanted to understand what you're saying.
No.
No.
I'll just reply to that. for me, I think the 4th of July fireworks are a great thing. I put it as an M because I don't know about the funding, but I mean, as far as like, there aren't that many things that are primarily local community in the summer where people get together, you see your neighbors. I do think it's valuable from that
It's
point
great
of
for
view.
the kids and it's great for the community, I think. Kids love it. And they remember them
More
for a
about
long-
that.
they
It has, and
remember
it
them
has
for a
enough
long,
votes to
long time.
pass.
Right.
Yeah.
It has
This is
enough.
really topical.
Yeah. We
Any-
need it.
Any other comments for folks online? By the way, when you see me looking, you see where I'm looking now? This means I'm looking at the screen to see if there are hands. No, I'm serious,
I
just so
don't
you
even
know.
see you. How can I make sure I see everybody? I only see a couple people at a time.
Yeah, well, you can't. There's only 2 cameras in here. It's,
No, I'm talking about my view. Like I can't, I can only
Oh.
see 6 people at a time. And so I can't see.
I can tell you, if you can see that, since you have the thing on your own,
Training.
on your own computer, pull the bar to the left so that you don't have to look at the, you don't have to look at the thing that John has put up.
do you want me to stop sharing? If you guys can all access it, I'll just stop sharing and we'll just
Can
keep,
we see that? I was looking at it through Zoom.
yeah, so,
Yeah, that'd be great.
The tabulated one?
yeah, if you go, okay, if you go to the page, if you go to the,
Click on voting.
click on voting.
Sorry, I must have been trying to get my thing plugged in.
And then you can stop sharing it and she'll see everybody.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, does everyone have the list then?
Oh, look at all the people. Okay, great. Thank you. Now I got you.
Problem is that the public can't see this, but if you're a member of
That's
the
okay.
public,
Then go back. It's okay. You know, I can go back. and-
I'll put it up from time to time. I'll give them a chance to take a look at it at the end.
Yeah.
I cannot put the link in the chat. Sorry, someone,
Don't worry about it, John.
yeah, I can't,
We'll
well,
just keep moving.
I just want to explain to the people, I can't put the link in the chat. It's protected behind a firewall only for EDC members. I'll put it
So
back
go
up.
ahead and share it. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but just pull, there's a bar you can pull to the left. and
Yeah,
it-
okay.
It'll
That's what
make,
I'm doing.
it'll make what John's sharing teeny.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it back up. And for those of you that don't want to look at it, you can do what Patrick said. So it's gonna be back up. Okay. That's what we've done here. So, all right, next is the first big one that's in the middle range here, which is the Vale Field revitalization. So Marion has said low, Deborah has said medium, Todd has said medium. So Marion, why don't you start with negatives and then some.
Yeah, I guess I just wasn't sold on the value of it. I mean, I don't have anything against it. I felt like it didn't seem like a lot of money to spend on a baseball field. And seeing what sort of what sports kids are interested in. I see baseball as waning. It just didn't make sense to me, really. You know, it didn't seem like something that a lot of people use. I didn't get the idea of bringing it. It just didn't make sense to me.
All right, other comments?
Yeah, where's my hand?
Sorry, Deborah and then Mika. Yeah.
Okay, Mika, you want to go? You can go first.
Sure, yeah, mine is short. I'm in full support of this project. I think it would be a really great addition to the community. I don't think it's that far off to imagine that people who aren't even in, I mean, besides the families and the kids at the school and all that stuff, I don't think it's a stretch to imagine that people who don't have kids in the school system, you know, and are just looking for something to do on a beautiful, warm, you know, Wednesday night to go down and watch a baseball game, a local baseball game. I don't think that that's a stretch. I think it's another one of those possibilities that, you know, could really bring the community together.
Deborah?
There's a lot of history down in that neck of the woods, you know, heading towards Vale Field and around Vale Field. And I was talking with with Matthew over at the Historic Center. And I just want to see that they, you know, if we're going to do this grant with them and given this kind of money, that we do something historic there. There was a huge African-American community at the turn of the century that went up and down that road and was a part of the community for a long time. And I just think that there's things that should be done in the creation of it that give some history to the area. And so I just wanted to bring that up as being part of the grant of, you know, if we're going to do the 39,000, that part of it is to bring in some some history and maybe some diversity, you know, in reflection of the history of the area in there.
Joe and then Todd.
Personally, I think that the Bear Field is one of the jewels of Woodstock. I mean, along with Village Farms and a couple of the, you know, Mount Tom and the Pogue and some of the really special places in town. And if I, you know, I go by it every day because I live right around the corner from it. And if I hadn't seen the incredible uptick in activity that is enjoyed by both visitors and residents as a result of the revitalizing the tennis courts, the basketball courts, the hockey rink, and how much that has been used and appreciated by, again, visitors and residents alike. I may have said, well, maybe we've got something going there. And there's the value to the argument that we shouldn't be doing this, but man, that's a great place, and it's used wisely. It's used for the right things, for the right people, all the time. So I highly recommend it. This is how I feel about it.
Todd.
Again, this has enough votes to pass, so I'll just keep it brief. But the reason it was an M for me is when I learned a little bit in talking to Deb about some of the history, I would propose at the time of voting that we make it contingent upon some sort of placard or such that can be agreed upon to describe that area, the folks who used to inhabit it, the history of the field, anything that's sort of interesting for not only out of towners that might stop by. It is a beautiful spot. I go there all the time.
Yeah.
But people in town, like I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I'm like, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so if we can have some kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be expensive, but some kind of lesson that the kids can learn there, like Wes is right across the street. I think that would be something that would have made me have a 100% yes. And I also want to say, I very much enjoyed the presentation of this grant by the folks who did it.
Yeah. I echo that making this contingent on placing a plaque or not a plaque, a history placard,
Yes.
whatever,
They
something.
did allude to that.
I think
in
I'm
their presentation.
sure they would be willing to it, because when they talked to me about this before the applications, they mentioned the fact that the baseball leagues was integrated at Vale Field
It
way
was.
before it was Major League
Unbelievable.
Baseball.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and you have sculptors in the area. It could be a local sculptor or whatever, you know, and to do something.
There's also strong corporate involvement. The guy who owns the minor league team is it in Burlington?
Not sure.
The Tornadoes or no, that's
Oh,
not.
no. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The Lake Monsters.
Lake Monsters,
Lake
yeah,
Monsters,
is
yeah.
quite interested in getting involved in this project, and I think they didn't put it in their application because they haven't finalized it yet. But so I think that there's some real development.
Yeah.
I agree. I would be 100% yes if there was like some sort of acknowledgement of the area. I think that's
Patrick?
John? Yeah, I just to bring it back to the EDC, I think like the ice rink, I think this could bring business to Woodstock for tournaments, for the Lake Monsters coming. I think there's real economic development opportunities by creating a field that people want to come and use and pay for. So I think there's real opportunity for economic development for Woodstock.
All right, so whether you're in favor or opposed, is anyone opposed to making this proposal contingent on the placement of a history
Sure.
thing, a history
Sure.
panel? So that's what we'll be voting on when we vote
I
on
have a
this. one.
question. Who puts up those signs like in front in the green, established
Yeah,
in such and such a date, and
All right.
the Morgan horse was
yeah.
traded here by the sheriff
Well,
license. Who
Roger,
does that?
I don't know, but can we let's
Yeah.
resolve it
just curious.
offline? But
Yeah.
But that's what we're voting on when we vote on this one. We're voting on it with the contingency. I'll keep track of that.
Yeah.
All right. Next is expanding Wassel weekend. This is the buses and the carriage rides for buses for Saturday and the carriage rides for Friday.
Can we split out buses versus carriage rides?
We can if we choose to.
I would personally, I think, based on what before hearing what anybody else has to say, I would think buses seem really valuable, carriage rides. Since people are paying for them, only some people are benefiting. I don't know how it really elevates the town in the event, but I think the buses seem like they make a huge difference on the impact, and that was my gut after. But I'd love to hear other people's opinion, because I'm sort of the newest to the community.
I would still
And
vote.
then Mika and Patrick after Todd.
I would still vote for both independently. The reason is that the unique feel of something like that it brings is what sort of the kids remember that. They come back and 10 years later, someone's like, remember we did that ride with the horses?
Yeah.
Like, and so like, that's the aspect for me that makes that worth it. The practicality of the buses is 100% a no brainer for sure, I think. But for me, it's the mystique of sort of adding that element of the horses and hospitality. Like, I think it does further into the mission of having people be able to remember specific things when they come visit. And that's why I like that aspect as well.
Mika,
I
then.
don't know if I don't know if it's an issue, but I guess the thing that seemed funny to me was that people have to pay to do it, but I don't know, just.
I mean, some things you have to pay for. Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't
we're
mean
paying
they're
for
not
it
cool.
too, and I think there was some conversation at the time of whether we could just charge what it would actually cost or.
The chamber is short of funds. They just apply for funding, and if we don't give it to them, then they either pay for it themselves or don't do it.
They don't do it usually.
Mika, and then I'm not defending it, or Mika and then Patrick.
I just wanted to point out that there are some pretty intense opinions on the public comments form about expanding Wausau Weekend, making reference to us breaking a promise to the community. Funding this grant would break a promise that the EDC has made to the community. And I'm trying to read through it real quick so that I can get a better sense, but
I can speak to that. I think that the promise, I think the person's misunderstood, because the promise that we made was to not extend it and make it a week long. It wasn't about adding like a hayride kind of thing. I think that my recollection is the promise we made was not to make it longer.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Not
I voted for this, but I put this at high, but then I read that comment, and I just want to make sure everybody's.
Well, my understanding of this grant is that the expansion of this is that there is currently, or has always been, a horse and carriage ride on Saturday and Sunday, and that this would pay for the expansion of the carriage ride to Friday.
Right.
And it would also
3
pay
hours,
for
11 to 2.
on Friday.
That's it. Yeah.
And then it would also pay for bundled together buses, which were not provided until we paid for them last year. So I would perhaps it would reflect both public comment and some of the comments here if we were to split these and to vote separately on the two of them. One is for the buses and one is for the carriage rides. Would anyone object to that? So I see a number of people here nodding. I see Deborah nodding.
I don't think we need to split it. The hay rides have been done. I think as to Todd's comment, this is the kind of thing that people remember. And as Joe says, from a hospitality standpoint, these are the kind of things that people, oh, I remember when we went to Woodstock, we got to do the hay ride. Yeah, I think there's no need to split it.
I don't have a strong opinion. That's just.
All right, just by a show of hands, how many people would think we should split it on the EDC? Just 3. Anyone who's remote? Deborah, 4. Okay, how many people think we don't? Presumably the rest of you. 1, 2. Mika, you're raising, you're saying don't. 5. Okay, so we don't split it. Okay.
I would say yes to both anyway.
Yeah. You do.
Save a vote.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's really 3 hours expanded. That's.
Yeah, I understand.
that's the difference.
No, I understand.
Yeah, the promise was not about that.
Okay. All right, next, is there any other discussion on Wausau Weekend? No, all right, the next one in the middle is, with 6 votes, is if you skip down to Woodstock Nursery School, 6 votes. So.
I'm happy to start with this.
Yeah, Todd?
Look, one of my other public duties is a member of the school board. I hear a lot about all sorts of issues including young children that aren't even ready for that step. So the nursery school, this is such an important thing, and we are going to tackle this. The reason I have as a low is I didn't feel the presentation was at a level that made me comfortable voting to distribute these funds in this way. I personally will be more comfortable immediately getting to work on this and using some of our balance funds to try to do something bigger. The highlighted points I have that stuck with me that I can say very quickly off the top of my head was the applicant wasn't interested in expanded days, including the summer. The applicant was also not interested in having more children or expanding their business. To me, it felt like a stopgap for a business that perhaps, while it satisfies children and that's a need, it wasn't a thriving business. And I don't see this people's money changing that. I believe that we need to go and solve this issue in a bigger way as fast as possible. And I believe this would be a waste of those funds in this direction.
Okay, Joe.
The reason I voted high for it, I agree with everything Todd says. I really do. But I voted high for it because I was hoping what happened is happening. We are talking about it. And I was afraid if it was low and it ended there, I think it would be a big injustice to what the community needs. And the reason I voted high is because just what Todd said, and what is Todd doing is opening up a really great discussion about the whole issue.
And folks earlier today did the same, tonight did the same thing. Deborah, and then Mika, and then Patrick.
Yeah, I'd like to make a proposal on this, and I don't, let's look at this at a couple of different ways. For me personally, I feel like I agree with a lot of what Todd said. I also understand the need to bring in an additional teacher, and that I was confused by some of the way they put together their presentation, but perhaps there's a smaller amount that we can give to them to help them feel secure in bringing another teacher in. And I would also ask, as the EDC, would we be willing to put $15,000, $20,000 aside for this problem? And we get to working with the community and just have that money aside to, set aside to handle, what we come up with. Because something that needs to be handled, kind of immediately.
Mika, and then Patrick.
I feel like this is a yes and situation. I don't think that when it comes to childcare, especially, given what's happening right now, people are getting back to work, people are going back out into the community, attendance is climbing. I don't think that there's time for us to say, well, we're going to put this money aside and we're going to brainstorm some creative ways to try and help solve for this childcare issue. There isn't enough childcare in our community. And so if there are existing businesses that are working on the childcare issue at hand right now, then I think, and if they are in need of funds so that they can continue to do the extremely important work that is being done, then I think it would be foolish for us to not help them get from point A to point B. And yes, it is a bigger issue. And yes, maybe this isn't actually the problem or the solution. And maybe there is brainstorming to be done. But I do think that this is a yes and situation. I think that a lot of people would be potentially hurt by us not helping a childcare center.
Just to be clear, I am agreeing with you 100% that it is a yes and. It's just perhaps a different proportion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mika. Patrick, and then Larry.
Okay, I was an M because of all of the things that Todd said. It was a terrible presentation. They weren't interested in anything about expanding. They don't cover the summer. So what are the people who are going there now do for the summer? Are they not covering people who work? I just felt like they were just interested in having a cushion and you're not looking for other opportunities. So I was on the fence on this one. I'm still on the fence on this one.
All right.
I'm sorry, can I just interject one more time? I think when you're a working parent, this is a lot, I think of childcare a lot like housing, I mean, you are a parent with 3 kids and the only house that is out there that's under $2,000 a month is, a 1-bedroom. You're going to make it work because that's what you have to do. So, I unfortunately was not there for the meeting, and I did my best to try and put all the information together from the video that I saw. But I think that, if they're not providing care in the summer, then a parent is going to do what they need to do to, fill that stopgap with summer camps or nannies or whatever they need to do. But that doesn't mean that they don't still need help now.
Larry and then Michael. Larry, you're muted.
My wife would love to know how to do that. I may be repeating too much, but I totally agree with Joe, who in turn agreed with what Todd was saying, but is saying it's not a perfect solution, but it's something that needs to get done now. We have a crisis here, and yes, we should, as a committee, investigate this, and hopefully there'll be a lot more talk about that going forward. I know that Rainbow School just lost 3 teachers yesterday or the day before. It's a real crisis in town. This may not be a perfect solution, and it may not have been a perfect presentation, but I support it as a stopgap.
The reason I put low is because this money is doing absolutely nothing to increase enrollment at the school.
Zero.
It's not like you're gonna all of a sudden be able to take 10 kids or even 5 or even 1 more kid. It does nothing for that. So that was really it. It's an existing business that's been going on. They're not expanding. It's not like they're a startup and they need some seed money. It's just we're giving them money so they have money in case they're until they get their enrollment money. It's not expanding at all. So it's not actually servicing more children. And if we don't grant them the money, it's not like they're going to have a decreased enrollment. So this really doesn't have much impact on it.
Right.
If I heard the presentation correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, but if I heard it correctly, I think that she was getting back to pre-pandemic levels with enrollment.
A
But
third,
they had to let go. They had to let go of a teacher, in all of COVID. They're getting back to pre-pandemic levels. They can't get back to pre-pandemic levels because they don't have that 3rd teacher. And so they're trying, they might not be expanding, and suddenly accepting more kids than they were pre-COVID, but they're just trying to be able to do what they did before COVID started in the first place. And right now they can't, if I heard it correctly.
Todd?
It should, this is one of those things where it's so hot button and so people are so passionate, as they should be. The presentation we received, this person may be a wonderful person. I'm sure they do a great job with the children. The business model is really, really unsound. There's people that don't pay because they only take checks. And this person wants to have money in the bank as a cushion, they said, to make them feel better. The position only requires $5,000 of startup money. So I'm willing to support $5,000 for all the reasons that you all said. But the $15,000 is because she doesn't have a method to get paid in a way that works for her business. She went for no rent relief on her landlord, which has exorbitant rates. And I want to talk about that with them as a citizen separately. It's just not a well-run business. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's what I heard in the presentation. So I agree with you though. And if what she said in the presentation was, which she did, $5,000 is enough money to get this teacher started, to get these kids that are ready to come in. I believe it's 23 kids for 18 at any given day. They can't go beyond that for licensing. Then I agree. And I would support that $5,000 to get them that other teacher.
All right, so I'd like to make a proposal. I agree with everything that's been said. Actually, I'm not sure that we're disagreeing with each other. We're describing what I think is a difficult situation.
Yeah.
The reason, so I would like to propose that we grant them 5,000, but set aside 15,000 in case they find themselves under serious financial pressure. And the reason why I'm suggesting that, and this goes back to your question about what is the money going to do with capacity? I believe that beyond the 5,000, that 15,000 is going to keep capacity at its current level rather than reducing it. And what we're seeing as Joe and I have begun to explore this with some fairly knowledgeable experts about childcare, I think this business model is under severe pressure. It's not clear to me that anyone with any level of business experience can make this work.
Yeah, it's possible.
And I think what we are seeing last week in the village is a decrease of capacity due to the fact that the business model is broken. Not that the people necessarily are broken, but the business model is broken.
Yeah.
My guess is that there is a real risk. I don't know what it is. We can't tell from the presentation, but there's a real risk that we will see a decrease in capacity at Woodstock Nursery. And if that's the case, I don't have any problem putting $15,000 for a year while we figure out what the bigger effort could be. So, but
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what the point I was trying to make.
Okay, sorry, I
literally said
apologize.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I would propose, okay, well then what Deborah proposed, if you're comfortable, Deborah, with the 5,000 and the 15,000, I didn't hear that, but
Yeah.
So I would, are people comfortable voting on a grant of 5,000 and a set aside of 15? And they would come back to us if it's basically an existential problem. So,
Yes.
Yeah, we want this to be
all right.
successful.
Is there anyone who's opposed?
No, I am not okay with that.
All right, well, I think, no, I'm not saying we're voting on it. I'm saying that we would,
What's your point of view, Mika?
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I know what it feels like to be a working parent and to have a hard time getting from point A to point B when you don't know where your kid's gonna go. And it's just the idea of, for lack of a better word, nickel and diming an organization that is trying so desperately to take care of our children and make sure that people can go to work. That just frustrates me. And maybe it's just in principle that it frustrates me, but it really does.
But Mika, I don't think we're saying not funded. I think we're saying 5, keep the 15 aside to help them if they need it.
All right, hold on a second, Patrick.
Can I
So,
make
sorry,
another,
Mika, no, hold on. Mika, finish your point, then Joe, then Marion, then Deborah. I think it's Deborah was first.
And maybe it is just a principle thing. Maybe I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, hey, when childcare is involved, my answer is just yes, period. Because it's freaking hard. It's really hard to be a working parent. And it's hard to be a childcare center. So, and everybody that's there should be getting paid more. $5,000 shouldn't be enough to pay a teacher. Like, I don't know. My problems with this are I have many problems with this. And so it's a little bit of a hot button topic for me. And so maybe just in principle, I want to say yes, the answer is just yes, because it's childcare. I suppose if we were going to set that money aside and it would be allocated for them if they were to need it, and that nobody needs to come back and, beg for it, that it's there. If it's needed, it's there. I could probably get on board with that. In the end, I'm one vote of many, and maybe my vote doesn't matter anyway, but I feel like this is an extremely important thing.
All right. Joe, Marion, Deborah.
Mika, I feel like I'm agreeing with everybody, but I agree completely with what you're saying. But my position is, this is more than just a big problem. It's almost a critical problem for our community. I mean, it's drastically needed. I voted high because I wanted to have this discussion. I'm almost willing to vote it low because I doubt that 5 or even 20 is going to solve the problem. It's not, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And but if it will open the door to a solution, if it'll open the door to more discussion, if it'll open the door to plans and a more concise business model plan for expansion, then that's where we should be going. And if the $20,000 is going to do that, I'll vote for it. I don't think $20,000 is going to solve the problem, but it may be a stepping stone towards solving the problem. And that's why.
Exactly. And sometimes I think we do operate as a stopgap, as we have already discovered with flower baskets, lights, and fireworks, right? Everybody's kind of like, well, this should be somebody else's responsibility, but since no one else is doing it and we think it's really important, we're going to do it. I feel like, how could we not apply that exact same logic to what we're talking about right now?
Well, flower baskets are important. Come on, Mika.
Okay.
Marion and then Deborah.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually, most of my point was, I feel like we're applying a more rigorous standard
To this than we are to
to
the others.
to the execution of the plan for childcare than we are
Yeah.
for Christmas lights or these
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And that's shocking. And, you know, I would love long-term for the committee to think about, like, just big picture. What if we, I mean, I know we can't do that this year, but can you imagine if we took the $300,000 and just set up
Yeah.
Woodstock as a town that had free
Put up a
childcare?
building that'll
I mean,
house
how that
60
would change
kids.
the
Yeah.
economy of this
Well, we couldn't do
town.
it for 300,000.
But you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, I mean, if
Yeah.
we were to just apply everything to something like this, we
Yeah.
could change the picture significantly.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
Deborah,
that idea, Marion.
Deborah,
So it's a yes and from what I was saying at the beginning, which was kind of my point. And I want to point out something that Roger has written in the chat. He said, even if it's somewhat symbolic, it makes sense to fund something now with the understanding that there will be a more strategic approach going forward. It is such a hot button issue in town that, again, to fund a flower basket and not to fund the kids in some way just doesn't make sense. However, 20,000 is a very large symbolic thing. So it feels as though, and in the conversation, she was saying, in order to hire a new teacher, I need 5, right? And I was saying, okay, what do you need in the bank to make you feel comfortable bringing a new teacher in? So I would add to the just putting the other part aside to say that it's not just for her, it's also for the Rainbow School or for anybody who's working on this issue, that we are committed to childcare and that we're going to give this woman X, and then we're going to put this amount aside for anybody working in childcare who needs assistance, and including this woman. I don't mean to call her this woman. I forgot her name.
Wendy Krieger.
Wendy, that
Right.
we're here to help you. Like, if you want our assistance, not only is there money over here, there's assistance and know-how, and let's get to work on this. So it's not just set aside for her, it's set aside for the issue.
I worry
Well,
about that. I worry about that. I think that, you know, when kids go to a school, they go to Rainbow, or they go to Woodstock Nursery, or, you know, wherever it is that they go, that's where they go. And I would hate to think that Wendy would need to come back to us for another, you know, 10K or 5K or whatever to keep her program going. But it's not there because we just gave it to somebody else who had a really good idea, and maybe there's, you know, this other thing happening, and so we don't have that money available for her. Meanwhile, there's, you know, 10 kids that go to this school. That's their school. They get up in the morning, they make their lunch, they go with their cute little backpacks, and they put their little backpack away in their little cubby, and they go and do their program. And I would not want that to not be available simply because, you know, we put it aside for anyone who has an idea. I do think we should have a fund for somebody who has an idea, but I think, you know, if she asked for 20, we should have 20 set aside, or give her 5, the 15 set aside in case she needs it.
Todd?
I would like, first of all, we are all going to work so hard on this, and I'm glad hearing that it's a yes for you no matter what. That's great. It's not for me, but the compromise is I would like to point out that this person, who I have a lot of respect for what this person does, we offered the discussion on no interest loan as a possibility, because it's really gap funding that the business needs due to receivables stacking up and other items. If she's not interested in expansion or anything like that, it's just getting back to where it was, which is an extra 5 children, 23 for 18 in any given day, and that's the max, and it can never be more because of the license. We offered a no interest loan opportunity to discuss, and it was denied and not interested, only interested in the grant. So here we are. And what I would say is significant about, and I know you weren't there for this, what's significant about the $5,000, just to reiterate, is that's actually the money that she needs to hire the teacher and have a couple months before the payments kick in for the new kids. And so I think that what Deb suggested, and then John trying to steal Deb's thunder, was that, hey, if those checks don't come in still, and she's having cash flow issues, she's not gonna have to beg, because that's why she's coming to us in the first place. It's not for expansion. You're not getting a lot more kids, but even one more kid, I understand it's completely worth it. So I like this compromise, and I like what everyone's saying, and I know we all like it. We could talk about this forever, but I just want to again reiterate that $5,000 is what she really needed, and offering the cushion of the 15 is still great. And we wouldn't make her feel undignified if she comes to us and says she needs it. That wouldn't be a thing.
She could just, all right. So I made the proposal to, to put numbers, or Deborah's proposal, and Deborah, did you have a 5,000 and 15,000?
Yeah, it's okay. I was.
So Deborah's proposal, I guess, let's vote on it again. I'm actually going to vote against that, against splitting it up that way and just making it simple. And the reason I'm going to do it actually is more for public consumption, to be perfectly honest.
Make it simple, meaning what, John?
Not basically, I think we should just take a quick vote on whether the proposal should be, what we should vote on at the end is 20,000 or 5,000 plus a set aside that they can get if they need it, and they don't have to meet any criteria. They just have to tell us they need it. Deborah has proposed that. I'm gonna vote in a moment when we raise hands to see whether we want.
You don't want to, it's Deborah's.
No,
Yeah.
fine. How would you like me to do it? Do you want me to take?
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
The reason is that I think the public is not able to people who are attending here, almost all of whom I think have been to, all of whom, as I see it, have been to more than one EDC meeting. But there are lots of people out there who don't even understand actually that we meet publicly. So they'll certainly won't understand any subtleties of this. And I think perhaps, I don't think this money is going to be wasted, because the businesses that these folks are all in is uneconomic.
Right.
If they don't need if she's saying I need the money now for the teacher 4 months from now or 6 months from now, or it might be a year from now, in which case we could have saved the money. She's going to need the money again. This is a money losing business. It's structurally unprofitable. And so I don't think this money is, and I don't think they're going to waste, they're not going to spend the money on vacations for the staff. The money is going to go to childcare. So let's now vote on whether it's Deborah's or my proposal to,
Your proposal is what?
do we want to vote at the end on a $20,000 grant? Raise your hand one way or the other. Or do you want to vote on a $5,000 grant with a $15 that they have to come back and get it without proving anything? They just have to ask for it. So how many people are in favor of just voting on a $20,000 grant? Sorry, so me, Larry, Mika. And how many people are in favor of voting on a $5,000 grant and a $15,000 bank account, basically, if they can draw on? 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's.
I don't want to prolong this. I really don't. To explain why I am voting that way, in my opinion, is to send a message to them to say, listen, you got to get it together. We're going to give you the money to get you through out of the hole and over the threshold. But for a long term, you got to get it together. And we're behind you 100%. That's why we're leaving the $15,000 there if you need it later. But you got to do more than what you have done.
But again, why are we having this conversation about kids, and we're not having that same conversation about flower baskets? We've been talking, I don't remember when I joined the EDC, I want to say it was like 16, 17, something like that. We have been talking about flower baskets that entire time. I have never not had a conversation every year about flower baskets. And, in the end, we always fund it. And the only conversation that's had, though, is it town or EDC? That's the only conversation.
Can I say one thing? Here's why. Because I don't believe that the chamber has ever come to us and asked us for more money than they need for the flower baskets.
Okay, right. but still, let me just finish. I'm going to go back to what you said. There is no chance that money is not going toward childcare. Right. It's going toward like that. Why would we hold back?
You're right.
It is. 15K because because they're, maybe the business model doesn't, we don't think it's a successful
right,
business.
we don't
model.
know.
Hold on a second. Patrick's got his hand up, then Marion, and then Michael.
Okay.
Patrick and Marion, Michael.
Okay, Mika, don't misunderstand here. It's not that we don't want to give them money. The problem is that during the presentation, they were looking for a cushion. If we give them 5,000, have 15 aside if they need it. I think what we should do, if we do anything, is maybe give them 7,500 and take 2,500 of that money to have them hire a person to put in systems in place that they can collect their money on time, because that's a big problem. They're not getting their money in. And so that's why they want this cushion. So I don't think we should be giving money for a cushion, but I don't disagree that we shouldn't give them help. And it's a much, much bigger issue than we're talking about. But, $20,000 so they can feel comfortable they have $20,000 in the bank when they don't need $20,000, but they're also not taking the steps that they need to do to
Yes.
make their business just run, whether it's a good plan or not, doesn't matter. They're just not doing the business things they need to do to make it sustainable for what they have right now. And so maybe we should look at it from that standpoint, give them money for the sole purpose of getting somebody in there to help them, do the things they need to do to get their money in and that type of thing. So I'll throw that out, because I don't think it's not that we don't want to pay for childcare. It's more that my concern is it was a horrible presentation and she had no interest in really improving or perfecting the business. And I think that's where Todd came in. So maybe we need to look at it from two sides.
Marion and then
I'm gonna
Michael.
just throw out a hypothetical.
Wait,
though.
sorry, Mika, hold on a second.
Yeah,
Marion, then Michael,
so-
then Mika again.
So first of all, my reason for being okay with separating the 5 from the 15 is not because because in a patronizing way that I feel like we know better than she does how to run her business. My only reason for being comfortable with splitting them was that the reason for the remaining 15, as I understood it, was just that sense of security that
Yes.
if she needed it, she had it. And so we were providing that by doing it. But I also want to be really clear that I'm not even comfortable with the sort of discussion of it was a terrible presentation, because this is a person who's an expertise in childcare. She's made a decision in how she wants to run the business. Her decision is that she doesn't want to expand. That doesn't mean that it's a bad business. It means that that's how, that's her choice. Her choice is to care well for a finite number of kids in a finite period of time. And I don't love the idea that we feel like we should be telling her what to do. We know better than she does. That does not, I think that I want to be clear, when I am comfortable with separating the two, it's not because I feel we know better than she does how to spend the money or what she needs. To John's point, this is a really, really difficult business. Everybody there is underpaid. And so I just want to make a public statement that the reason I'm okay with separating those is that 15K she asked for, as I understood it, because she just needed that sort of safety net. And so we're providing the safety net.
Well, I would like to say that she then asked for 50. She then asked for 50 in the
That
conversation
was in the question of.
of what
in a
money do you
perfect
need? Then we
world,
just said, why is the grant
we
25?
asked that
This
question.
money is raised by everyone who comes in and pays the tax. And just because the issue is so important doesn't mean that we should ignore the fact if we're going to be wasting any of it. So I think that this solution on the public record for me, every kid should have childcare that needs it. We should work as hard as possible and as fast as possible to make this happen, no matter what the cost. This person requires $5,000. We should give it to her. The cushion is my compromise personally. We should give it to her and we should move on so that we can then spend the time fixing this issue in the way that you suggested or others. But this isn't about, when I say I didn't like her presentation, it's because I didn't. It wasn't professional. And when I'm going to give someone $20,000 of the people's money, thinking some of it's going to be thrown out in a way, even when it's heartstrings pulling for a kid, it bums me out. So I am here to offer advice. I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. I will help with payment credit card system. I will help with collection. I will do anything she needs as a private citizen anytime. So I'll go on the right, and all of us would. But the only feeling is I just don't want to throw it away. But this discussion, as Joe pointed out, and Mika, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. No kid shouldn't have childcare. We all agree.
Michael and then Mika.
So I think really just based on, we can only make our decision based on the presentation, right? So we understand that she needs $5,000 to be able to hire or rehire this third employee. And it's not like if she has an extra 15 in the bank that she's gonna increase wages for those existing teachers. That was never discussed. And so it's just gonna sit in the bank, right? It's not like they're gonna hire a fourth teacher and get more kids. So it's just sitting in the bank. If there were in the presentation, say, oh, if we had more money, then we would raise the salaries, then maybe, yeah, that makes more sense, because absolutely these people need to be paid more, but that was not part of the presentation.
Mika, and then I have a comment. Mika, go ahead, and then maybe we can join.
Okay, so obviously I missed something in the recording that I listened to. And so if there's a $5,000 immediate need and the $15,000 cushion is reserved specifically for them, I could get on board with that. I agree with everything that Marion said. It frustrates me to hear people talk about, whether it was whether I don't want to imply that we know anything about her business or how to run it. It even frustrates me talking about collecting payments. For all you know, the parents that aren't writing checks, they're not writing checks because they don't have any money. And what are they going to do? They're going to turn that kid away at the door. Maybe they need a month to be able to pull those funds together. I don't know. And I don't want to pretend to know. And I don't want to make any assumptions there. So if there's a $5,000 immediate need, and there's 15,000 specifically for her, I could get on board with that.
Okay. So I think we've basically, that is what we will vote on. That is, I think, what Deborah and I were both suggesting. I would like to add something because I think one of the things separately from, it's really a separate issue. One of the things that rubs some of us, maybe all of us, the wrong way is that we seem to be doing something different for the flower pots than we're doing for kids. I would like to suggest, just going back briefly, that when we vote on village beautification, which is the nth time we're voting on that we basically do what we're proposing here, which is, I think in that case, to say a village beautification was what, $4,000 or $9,000. My suggestion is that we basically grant $4,500, half of it, and that we say to the chamber that they undertake a fundraising effort, private fundraising and corporate, and that we'll leave it, and that they'll come back to us and describe what they've done, and we will set the money aside so that if they fail, they have to make a good faith effort. We'll trust them to make a good faith effort. I don't think we're going to audit it. And then they'll come back to us and we'll set that money aside. And if they can't raise it, then we'll give it to them. And that's what we should vote on, which is sort of the
So should we vote right now on modifying both?
Yeah, those, right. So is any,
I just have a question. Isn't that what was said, that both for the fireworks and for, I think it was Wassail, that it was set aside money and they would use it if they needed it? I thought,
well, we'll use it if they need it. And what I'm adding to that, just to be very explicit, is, and you need to try to raise it and show us that you're making the good faith effort. And
right, that's what I thought I thought that was in the presentation.
I think for the fireworks as well, because it's every year. So does anyone disagree?
Wasn't part of that.
I'm sorry?
The beautification wasn't part of that originally. You're saying let's add the beautification to that.
In the beautification discussion, we talked about private fundraising, but we were not, because it was not a decision-making meeting, we were not deciding whether to grant on that basis. We were asking whether you would do it, and Beth said yes, they would.
Correct.
So what I'm now, just to split hairs, what we're now doing is saying we're going to make a grant contingent on that conversation. Yeah. So is there anyone who's opposed to that? It's okay to be opposed, but. All right, if not, then on the village beautification, on the fireworks, which we haven't gotten to, and on the nursery, in each case, well, they're quite different. The village beautification and fireworks, we're going to say, we'll give you half the money, granted. We will set aside the other half only for you, contingent on your going out and trying to raise that amount from other people. And we'll trust you to tell us if you've made a good faith effort. In the case of the nursery, we're going to give you 5,000. We're going to leave 15,000 aside if you need it. And all you have to do is come back and tell us you need it. But if you don't need it, we're going to use the money next year to fund some other initiative. And that's what we'll be voting on at the end. Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. That's a good discussion. And
it's a great
I think we
discussion.
have, our work cut out for us over the next couple of years. And by the way, I just want to say that this initial meeting that Joe and I had, which we can brief you on further in the April discussion, suggests that there's actually some resources around the state that we're willing, that have expertise and are willing to help in Woodstock and have some knowledge about the local situation and some ideas for how communities can deal with this. And I think with the partnering with partnering with the EDC and this organization, which is called Let's Go Kids, which is set up by the state to do this, I think that we can really have some impact.
I'm willing to give.
That is a
every
great
ounce.
organization.
That is. The woman
I
we
didn't-
spoke to today, I've never met anybody more passionate about what they do than this and more knowledgeable. I
Yeah.
feel very.
Yeah.
that we can get-
Well,
That's
you
an
make
amazing organization. And that's one of the cool things about them. Sorry, I'll just say real quick. They are a sunset organization. Like their goal is to put themselves out of business. It's really, really awesome.
All right, those are the sixes. There are no fives. That's kind of interesting. So six is one more. Let's talk about the one lesses. So let's talk about the fours. The Woodstock, there are 4 fours, the Woodstock Greeter Project. 5 people put it medium. So, is there some argument against this that someone wants to put up?
Against the greeter
Sorry.
program.
Patrick,
Patrick.
My concern with this is it's going to turn into one of those evergreen projects that they're going to come to us every year for.
an evergreen project.
Every year.
Every year we're going to have to fund this, and there's got to be a way that we can do this, as a one-time deal, whether it's an app, which I don't think will work, or even if it's just where the buses let off, we have flyers that tell them where everything is. I don't know if we necessarily need a body there, especially if they're just coming in town for a half hour to an hour. It seems a little overkill to me, and this is going to turn into the flower baskets and the all over again, which is why I made it a medium.
Mika has Todd, and then Mika.
The reason I supported this was just merely for the welcoming aspect, but also the data it'll provide to merchants who are interested in serving, like I know I would be with the Tassville Picnic Shop, interested in serving these folks that come that otherwise had a problem getting food. So that's the aspect I really liked about it, is the coordination as best they can for a reasonable amount of money to know when folks are coming to be able to give them services. Because there is some talk from Beth, I don't know this myself, but I'm sure she's saying the truth, that some businesses are specifically anti folks coming off the bus. So that's just where I came from with it. But I agree that it doesn't have the impact that some of the other things might in a larger way. So I can go either way on it, but I put it a high just for that data from a merchant perspective.
Mika?
Yeah, I felt like this was one of the projects that didn't demonstrate to me a real public benefit. I understand the hospitality aspect, and I understand, wanting to make sure that people feel welcome, but I do feel like we could probably accomplish those things through, maybe other means that wouldn't require us to perhaps make it evergreen, similarly to what Patrick said. I think, I know that maybe not everybody has Wi-Fi when they get in, but if everybody on that bus was told, hey, before you get to Woodstock, while you're here and you're hooked into our Wi-Fi, download this app and it'll give you this information. Or I don't know. I just feel like there must be another way to do that. And I do have concerns about whether or not it becomes something that's year over year. And I just feel like we can't afford any more of those.
Deborah, and then Marion.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that I do think the buses are going to be part of our life here. It's going to be really hard to get the buses out of town. They're part of the industry of being tourists, having a tourist destination. I like the idea of the greeter. I'm concerned about the evergreen, but I also think it could work if there was a commitment to, if we were funding it so that they were committing, they were creating a program that involved high school students, that involved some credit, that involved, that it became something else within a year so that it wouldn't be funded through us again. And I think that would be a great thing. This could be a great school project or, extra credit or. I think there's a creative way of handling it and still getting it accomplished and having that welcome aspect.
Marion and then Larry.
To me,
No,
what I
Michael.
saw the value, the reason I supported it was the value to me seemed as much as a benefit for the tourists, but maybe even more so a benefit for the local businesses in the local community. I know that when some of the buses came through on the really busy times, there was a negative impact and just too many people that didn't know where to eat, that were confused, that were frustrated, that just had a negative impact on business and community. And so I think it would be worth testing to see if something like this just relieved some of that pressure on the community as a whole and on even the businesses that were trying to serve them. There were days where there were lines out the door and it was overwhelming. I think not in a positive way for the businesses. So that was the value I saw, was actually sort of helping Woodstock rather than helping the tourists. I mean, it's both, but.
Roger has just put in a comment. Can someone, we don't have to respond to this. I'm just saying, just so the chat box is responsive, is being responded to. Can someone demonstrate to me that there's a substantial benefit to the residents of Woodstock from bus tourism? So, Michael and then Mika. Sorry, Michael and then, no, I'm in the wrong place.
Larry.
Larry and then Michael.
Well, I can't demonstrate that. So I had this first of all as a low, and I moved it up to medium because I feel like somebody just said the buses are going to be here, and this seems a way for Woodstock to at least put a good foot forward in greeting people and making the people who are here anyway feel welcome, and an opportunity to direct these people to the businesses that actually want them. I was especially concerned to hear that some of the businesses actually have signs up saying they don't want bus people. And I think especially if that is true, that it would be good for us to give a more positive impression of our town, and also maybe help the businesses that actually want that business. I think the fact of the matter is the buses are going to come here. So I think we should put.
Okay, hold on. We're going Michael, then Patrick, then Todd, then Joe.
Yeah, I went medium on this one only because I could totally get behind this, but I felt like it was limited in its scope. And that one problem was that only the buses that they had contacted prior.
Yeah.
Who knows what buses are coming? I don't know. Is there like a site that tells you which buses are coming to Woodstock that day?
There's
Because then maybe you're missing half of the buses. And then what's the point of that? But I think like the benefit is, hey, you're decreasing traffic, right? You're improving the flow through town. Your buses, you're on, you park here, you get over there. At the same time, when you drop 40, 50 people off at a time, they're overwhelming the few restaurants that are actually open in town. But what's great about this is they can take orders ahead of time, like the day before, and say, we've got 50 people, this is what we want. And they can get in touch with whatever restaurants are in town, and actually whoever can take it, here's an order, right? Or maybe they alternate, something like that. But I feel like that has to be an integral part of this. But again, it's can we reach out and get every bus online for this program? Otherwise, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Okay, Patrick, Todd, Joe.
To Michael's point, that was one of my concerns, that I think the person aspect of this is flawed because we don't know what buses are coming in, and there isn't a place that tells you every single bus that's coming in. And I agree that would it help to put lipstick on a pig? Yes, but there are many businesses who don't want the tourists because they come into their stores, they clog them up, they don't buy anything. And that's the reason why some of the businesses in town don't want bus people there. If they're only here for half an hour, 45 minutes, it's a challenge, and they are going to come, And so what's the best way to handle this? Is it greeter the best way, or should we really think about, a better approach to this? I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not sure the greeter program is right, simply because if we don't go on every single bus, then we still have the same problem.
Todd and then Joe.
As you all know, I think we shouldn't pay for lots of things that people want us to pay for. And I don't know why businesses in town might, or maybe somebody that just has some extra money that wants to. We've discussed this over and over again, including today, where John, Deb, and others have said that perhaps we should go and have a contingency on trying to raise money and this and that. There is something that I find very interesting here, that there's some businesses who don't want, I don't like the term bus people. And I also think a little bit, I think the treatment of any tourist coming to town and being categorized this way makes me feel a little sad, but that's okay. I'm entitled to feel sad. I think there are businesses that do want it, like I know mine will, for example. Why don't we go and think about approving this in a 50-50 split or something like this, to give the opportunity for it to start off as a pilot? But why don't we go and see if private businesses might be interested in being able to sponsor this, because maybe their store will be the first option on the menu that might be provided, or it might be the third option, or things like this. Because if there's 5 or 6 businesses that might make $1,000 if a bus comes in, they might be interested in this product placement on this menu of services, no different than we pay to get on the little cartoon map. So I think this idea, while we go and look at bigger projects, of splitting things up and trying to get private sector involvement is something that I would think about suggesting to apply to this.
It's a small amount.
It is a small amount, and that's why you get a couple places, maybe it could be sponsored in some way, shape, or form.
Joe?
I sat in the chamber office one afternoon and the same couple came in, literally, the same couple came in 3 times asking where was the covered bridge. And I told them 3 times, well, twice I told them, right on the corner. And the 3rd time I took them there. And they were most grateful, and
They robbed you?
They didn't rob me.
You're hired, Joe.
You're in.
So, and the second most obvious question is, where do we eat? I think my sense is this may help those situations. Somebody gets off the bus, they probably have a sense of what they're looking for, what they want to see while they're here, like anything else. And if they can do it a little quicker and go directly to where they want to go and do what they want to do in terms, and one of the benefits that we may have this year that we didn't have last year is there may be more dining venues available than there were last year. And having for lack of a better term, a rack card available, if a greeter, where can we eat? Say, well, these are some of the places open, this is where they are, and they can go directly in and or either that or go on visit Woodstock. We can advise them how to do that, and they can decide if they want to go eat, where they want to go eat. It's just a sense of traffic flow, getting people in and out. I think of what Patrick told me about the Woodstock Farmers Market pre-COVID. Somebody would come up, order a sandwich, they would wait for 20 minutes and get their sandwich and walk out the door. Well, he says now they go in and pick up 5 sandwiches in 10 minutes and they're out the door. I mean, it's just, same kind. The bus people are going to come. There is no doubt about it. Unless you put up a wall and say you can't come in here, they're going to come. They have been for the 30 years I've lived in town. And I think this may be a better way of handling the situation than just letting them thrash around town on their own, trying to figure out what they're going to do in an hour and a half or 2 hours that they're in town. That's all.
I'll just make a quick comment. I would like to see the lunch supply demand problem solved. I have not heard of any initiative or any proposal from the town, other than from anyone in town, the select board, the village trustees, any of the restaurant owners, or us actually yet, other than this, that touches on the question of a
Yeah.
possibly more efficient way of providing food to visitors.
That's right.
And so even though that's only a portion of this grant, it's a small enough amount of money. And I do like the civility of having someone with a, I would vote for this grant. And suggest that the money really be focused on getting that lunch system, even if it's only half the buses. I mean, if it'll, and giving some kind of, basically giving advance notice to people so that they can prepare sandwiches in advance. So we know 50 people are coming. So now, having said that, if this is not funded, I think the EDC can focus on the lunch reservation problem ourselves, just that, not a person greeting and so forth, but just, I'm sorry?
It's being addressed.
Yeah, well, a system for registering buses and allocating capacity for lunch, and basically making sandwiches in advance, just to keep it really simple.
Yeah.
We know that there's 60 people coming in a 45-minute period. They need 60 sandwiches on Monday. This isn't like sending a man to the moon. We could solve that problem, and nobody has proposed a solution to it until this. So I think we should either vote for this, and if we don't, which is okay with me,
Well, clarification.
There's definitely a bigger issue that needs to be solved here.
Wait a minute, Patrick. The last year, there wasn't a solution. It was pretty much every man for himself,
Right.
but the ideology for the people who were open, you were gonna get slammed. It doesn't matter how many sandwiches we make ahead of time. We have to make as many as we can, as fast as we can, and get them out as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
That was the ideology then. This year, hopefully with this, maybe we can have a better system of addressing it.
Patrick?
I think this is a bigger issue than having sandwiches ready and stuff. If we pass this, great, we can try it. But I think there needs to be thought put to that's a much bigger solution than just a simple greeter to handle the lunch traffic, to handle the number of people coming in and be able to minimize the frustration from some of the business owners and the public, because the public also has an issue with so many people. I don't know what that solution is, and it may be something that we need to have one of our working groups work on. But I think there's a bigger issue here that needs to be looked at from a 50,000 foot view and try to build a solution that's going to really make Woodstock the place to be, where nobody's frustrated. Citizens, businesses, and visitors. And so I propose we try to put something together on that.
Okay, I agree with that too. So Larry, your hand is still up, but I'm guessing it just remained up because your camera's off. So are there any other comments on Woodstock Greeter? All right, I'm gonna keep going through the fours, and then I just want to pause for a process check.
You hated my idea?
What was your idea?
My idea is like,
Oh,
we should do that. No one wants to do that.
Sorry, contingency.
Everyone
Sorry.
says, no, it's fine. I'm
No,
not offended.
no, but we should at least just, sorry, I apologize for passing over it.
Who knows?
All right, so I think Todd is proposing that that with this project as well, we grant half of it and ask for a good faith effort to raise funds. I'm sorry, I'm just putting words.
Yeah,
in.
no, you're.
Same model. We basically grant half and ask for a good faith effort to raise the funds privately to sponsor this. Is there, how do people feel?
That's not that much money.
I feel like it's so small.
Yeah,
and-
it's not that much
I mean,
money.
I think pretty much everyone's supporting it.
I-
It's a good, it's like a
I think
pilot.
but I think it's the principle of the matter, right?
That-
I
yes,
think
yes.
it's in fact.
Right, so let's, all right,
It only has 4 votes right now off of our sample.
so let's just see.
I feel like it's a part-time kind of position as it is. You cut the dollars in half, then it's like, you're gonna affect maybe like 3 buses.
They'd
No,
be
no.
able to come get it.
No, we basically say, here's $2,500. We'll give you the other $2,500 if you come back and tell us you made a good faith effort to raise it from businesses and you were unable to. And that's what we're gonna, that's the model for
Just
the others. as
falling
well.
in the mold of the.
No, I'm not arguing for it or against it. I'm just explaining it.
I just don't like toying with the grant applications and like saying, oh, we're gonna give you X amount instead of this. I feel like they're coming to us, this is how they planned it out. Sometimes.
But that's
like-
exactly what we did. to
But I get it for the
child
nursery
session.
school, but I just feel like it's different. And again, this is a tiny amount.
I'd like to speak on this very quickly. if I may. The end result, I think as we migrate into different ideology and philosophy of how this body works and spends the money that we're trusted with. I just think it's a nice stepping stone because we're still offering them 100% if we vote yes. And we're just sort of like teeing up the fact that, hey, in the future, we're looking to expect, like when you come to us, you've already really tried to do these things. So I do think it is about the principle of the matter, but I understand what you're saying. So for me, it's just, I'm a yes vote, right? But I just feel like the yes plus, just please give your effort is setting us up.
It moves us into a direction.
Yes.
All right, so
What
who's in-
about if the program is really successful?
I'm working there.
And then next year you come back and say, okay, you're gonna raise your own money?
Well,
I don't know.
We'll see it. Hey, success.
all right, let's just have a quick show of hands. Who's in favor of applying the kind of 1/2 plus good faith fundraising? I can't count myself twice. Wait a minute. So Patrick, Larry, are you still
He
with
raised
us?
his hand. He raised it.
He
No,
just,
that was for, I was gonna make a
Before.
comment. I'm not in favor of splitting it.
you're not.
Okay.
All right, who's opposed to splitting it then? 1, 2, and Larry is opposed. So I think we voted to split it then. Okay, so that's what we'll be
By the
voting
way,
on.
I think this meeting was ill planned. I mean, can we call? for-
Larry, do you mean to have your hand up?
Packaging chips. My God,
I
really?
ate more
So-
than that.
Sorry, wait, hold on. One discussion. Hold on. Mika, sorry, what were you saying?
I
Larry,
was just asking Larry if he meant to have his hand up. He might be waiting to ask a question. I'm not sure.
No, it got covered. I took it back down.
Okay. All right, let's just keep forging ahead. The next 4 vote is TEDx to Woodstock, 25,000.
Oh, you skipped Woodstock.
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, Woodstock Wheels, I apologize. Woodstock Wheels, does someone want to speak? Again, well, actually, I think on this one, we should start with the positives because we're leaning negative. So who wants to speak positively? Todd and then Michael.
I very much enjoyed Phil's presentation, and I got to speak to Phil a little bit at it on behalf of the applicant. This person seems to me like a driven person. And while I've never been on an e-bike, just the thought and the idea of what I was presented with, like I'm very excited to get on one. And I think that it really allows people to enjoy the town in a way that is unique. And also this person isn't looking for large funding to really go full steam. This person made it very clear that they want to just get a little bit more to make sure they keep going in the right direction, make these adjustments. So I was in favor of the entrepreneurial spirit of it. And that's why I voted on the high side in my survey.
I'm a medium.
Oh, hold on, Michael and then Joe.
Come on now.
And then
Well,
Mika.
I'm sorry, man.
Listen, I like this a
Michael,
lot.
Joe, Mika.
And, it fills a niche in town. Since Du Bois and King came in, we had already always talked about like bike lanes, shared bike lanes, which they proposed for the village. Woodstock is very hilly. So you come in, you rent one of those bikes, it's a 3-speed or whatever, you can't bike anywhere. It's really hard to get places. So I think the e-bike totally tackles that. At the same time, here's a guy who's an entrepreneur, he's starting his own business and he's expanding his business and he's absolutely filling a niche that we need. And so I enthusiastically support this program.
Mika. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Mika and then Joe. And then Larry. And then Patrick. Mika, Joe, Larry, Patrick.
I agree with everything that has already been said, and I think that Woodstock has a really wonderful outdoors quality, right? Like people come here to enjoy the outdoors, but if you have any limitations in that department at all, then you can't enjoy what other people come here for. And I feel like e-bikes really open that up to people of all ages and all abilities. And that to me is in fact an economic driver. So I'm in full support of this. I think it's a great project. And similarly to what everybody else said, he's a local kid, entrepreneur, doing a great job. I think it would help the town.
Larry, and then, sorry, Joe, then Larry, then Patrick.
I was a medium vote because I was hoping somebody would convince me that I should be a high vote, and these 2 guys did, so leave it at that.
Okay, Larry, and then Patrick.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the bike business, as you may know. I think he's got a great business going. I think he's done a great job. What I heard was he would continue to do what he's doing. He's also got a new place to have his base of operations. I think all of those things are great. I think it dips us into the area of giving grants to private organizations, especially this one that seems to be very healthy and got a good thing going. I applaud everything that he's doing. I'm just not feeling comfortable that that's something that we should be giving public money to.
Patrick and then Deborah.
I'm in the same camp. This is strictly somebody looking to increase the business. It's not only not going to really increase it. I think he's going to have one more bike, maybe two more bikes. He's going to be replacing other stock. To me, he does have a good business. I love the idea of it and everything, but to me, this sounds like he needs to go to a bank and get a loan and do what normal businesses do. I mean, that's what I do when I improve my business. I don't go to the EDC for money. I've renovated all my rooms over the last 2 years. I didn't come to the EDC for money. I borrowed when I needed to, and I saved when I needed to. I just don't think we should get into loaning businesses money to expand.
Deborah?
Did you say loaning money to expand or
I'm sorry,
granted?
giving money to expand. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm
'Cause we
all
do
in
have
for
that.
the loan thing. I'm cool with.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay, because
cool with-
that's something we're developing, so that might fit for this, and I agree, we're dipping into like startup funds for for-profit businesses. I voted, I don't even remember if it was high or medium, because I think like what everybody else is saying, this is a great idea and it's necessary and we need to, I think it's great. I'm still not clear on, and I'm trying to get clear on what is the give back. If we are going to give a for-profit entity that will expand and grow, and we're dipping our toe into that, what is the give back to the local community? And I'm just not clear on what the, is there a, not on tourist weekends or whatever, they have made available to the community, or, I'm curious about that, but I think it's a great business.
The
I
give,
don't know if it's in the printout, but
the
we
give
did
not-
answer it on in the
what
forum.
was, can you say what the answer was?
I'm going from memory, which I don't trust completely, but I believe it was free or discounted rides for locals during the week, and maybe something else.
Mhm.
But he did specify what the give backs were in
All right,
the
well,
chat.
yeah.
I'll
I'm
look
pulling
for
it up.
Could you
Thank you.
just check that? What, are there, oh, Deborah, sorry, you were next, or did you? You just went, sorry, Deborah. I just have a quick comment on this. I think that there is greater economic benefit to the community to provide what I'll call risk capital for a business that probably couldn't yet get funding from a bank. And so I'm very much opposed to the idea of not giving a blanket rule to not give money to for-profit entities. I think we should not be giving money to for-profit entities that could borrow because they have a solid business model and some track record. And I think this business fits into that category. So I'm opposed to this one for that reason. But if this were 3 years ago, when he was trying to start up the business, or 2 years ago, whatever it was, and needed capital, wasn't sure he could get it, and a bank wouldn't give it to him, that's the kind of thing that I would consider investing in. So that's why I'm voting later, or most of us, I guess, did vote for the Startup Woodstock program, which is giving money for a business to grow. But that business, whatever that startup business is, isn't going to be able to borrow from a bank. And I would actually make that one of the criteria for it, is that it's because we need to take more risk. That's how you grow an economy, I think. So anyway.
No, I can't find it.
John, can I ask you a question? Are you saying that, sorry, can somebody remind me? Were they open to a loan? I don't remember.
I think they were.
I don't think the topic came up, did it? Was that suggestion made?
I feel like it was.
Sure it was. I mean, we discussed it with everybody. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe they said they would talk about it.
Yeah, I think
It wasn't-
they were not intransigent on any point. They're pretty flexible. So, well, the problem is we don't have a loan program. So, but on the other hand, we may develop one early, so I certainly.
Oh, here it is. He says, it's not exactly, but the question he's answering is, if you don't receive EDC funds, how will you go forward with the project? And he says, I will continue to operate my business similar to last year. The funds are to be used to offer discounted rides to the community, to extend my hours and to hire a small team, and for added maintenance and business costs, which are performed locally in Woodstock. So it's not exactly an answer, but
Right.
it does say discounted rides to the community.
Right.
And he said also that he was looking to replace stock of some of his bikes to better bikes and so forth. So, I don't think that answer is completely accurate.
He said he wanted to buy more bikes.
3 more.
And replace some. Yeah, it's
mean,
both.
I'm
Michael and then
struggling,
Larry.
sorry, I'm struggling with this not giving money to for-profit businesses, because I mean, what we did commercials for the businesses last year, those are all for-profit businesses. I think we need to be helping for-profit businesses at the right time. And I don't think it should be a blanket statement said, oh no, for-profit. And here's a guy who's, he's 1 year into this business. And I don't know how profitable the business is, but he's probably struggling. These bikes aren't cheap, and then you got to maintain them. And I feel like here's a guy who's trying to do his best to actually get something off the ground to make it bigger. I mean, I'd love to see e-bikes throughout the town, not just in one location, because you got to you park at the East End, you got to walk all the way to the rec center to get a bike. I mean,
But
that's a pain. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like without help and funding, it's not going to grow.
Well, I agree with
with
him.
what Michael's saying.
I agree with him also. That's not the proposal, unfortunately, that we got.
That's right.
I would, and in fact,
I mean,
for what it's worth, well, I don't.
Listen, I'm moving
but
back to ask this
everyone's
question.
like, oh, it's for profit.
No.
This is a slippery slope. I'm like, it's not. It's a business. We're the economic development committee. Our job is to
Just
grant
to be-
money.
I-
And if we're not doing that, what's the point?
I'm not saying it's for profit, it's for profit. I'm saying
There
the
probably
opposite.
is no profit in this business right now.
I'm saying the opposite of that. I think this guy could borrow money from a bank.
Yes,
I-
that's,
But we
I wouldn't make the comparison.
Here, so he
Wait, hold
doesn't
on.
need to borrow money from the bank, is what I'm saying. That's our whole purpose.
I'm
Why are
not-
we pushing everyone away?
I don't,
I feel like
I
we're
don't
doing
do
that.
All right.
But
Joe and then Patrick.
I'm embarrassed to ask this question, but did we ask him at the meeting if he was profitable last year? I don't remember an answer to that.
Yeah,
Did he make any money last year?
he did not.
He did not.
We did not ask him at the meeting.
Oh,
However,
all right,
I asked
all
him
right.
before the meeting. I went through his
I think
P and L.
Patrick
Oh, he did.
asked for a P&L.
He
Yeah,
did,
okay.
and I don't think they provided it, but he basically roughly broke even last year.
He broke even.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
Roughly.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
So,
First year.
Uh,
Yeah.
Patrick, were you
Which
going to say
happened
something and
to
then?
me.
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
first of all, I don't think we can compare
Guys,
I
one conversation. Go ahead, Patrick.
I don't think we can compare the TV commercials to this. First of all, the TV commercials were marketing. Personally, I think it was a terrible idea. And was not going to work. I could have told him that. This is a whole different beast. This is somebody I think you could easily get financing for it from multiple sources. And as John had pointed out, I think this is a good point, is we should be helping companies that are going to struggle to find money that we think are good ideas for Woodstock. I think it's a great idea what he's doing. He talked to me. I was willing to help him market it to my people here and so forth. But it's same thing. If I want to add something to my rooms, I'm not going to come to the EDC and ask for money, because I don't think that's appropriate. I think if he's going to look for money to expand his business, then he needs to go the normal route. I don't know. I have a real problem.
Did EDC become a Shark Tank?
Have you read the purpose of the EDC? It's to encourage and help existing and new businesses prosper. I mean, like, so what? That's exactly what this is. Like,
Okay, so Michael, so you want to expand your office, so you're going to go to the EDC to get money, and same thing with Montverde. Montverde's going to go.
it wouldn't be out of. It would not.
Wait,
be-
hold on.
It would not be out of the purpose of the EDC for me to apply. I choose not to, but here's someone who does, and he's fitting some of the purpose of the EDC. So it's an entirely appropriate application.
We'll have to disagree then, because I don't agree with
We'll
you.
disagree with that.
Yeah, all right, no. And this is, by the way, this is
Excellent
an
discussion.
excellent discussion, and we're going to resolve, hopefully we will resolve it one way or the other throughout the rest of this year.
Yeah.
For tonight, we have to vote our convictions.
Yeah,
basically.
yes.
Todd, hopefully last
I-
comment on this one. And then-
I have to go back to the childcare thing, because it directly relates to this in terms of like what I see from a business being ran and trying to, and taking Marion's points and everyone's points, I will, in finding like turning my mind's eye inward, I was voting yes for this in my mind because it seems successful and I feel like it can be really successful. But I unlike the childcare business, which is through no fault of the operators, I believe, as John mentioned, I agree, not a successful business in terms of the monetary sense. I think I might be considering going the other way based off of this, because I think this will be successful whether or not we provide this funding or not. But as a private citizen, I'm interested in talking to them about helping them out also, because I think I like these e-bikes, never do anything about them. But and I'm not articulating. Just because you're good or bad at business, it has to play into what we're doing here. But I think I was saying in my mind, yes, because this seemed like such a no-brainer. And now I'm thinking that's more of a no, because it's a no-brainer. Does that make any sense to anybody?
No.
Yes, make total sense to me, Dodge. I totally get it. And I agree with you totally 100% on that. There should be people lining up to give him money.
All right. On that note, sorry, we've got two more fours. Sorry, TEDx Woodstock and expanding Welcome Center hours. So the next one on my list is so TEDx. So who wants to speak on the positive side of this? Since there are 4 votes for it so far.
I will.
All right, Patrick, go ahead.
This strikes me as another opportunity for Woodstock to create a reason for people to come here in a similar way that Bookstock is. And TEDx has a fantastic reputation. I think it would drive a lot of business to Woodstock, and it's going to be profitable after year 1. This is a case where I think, they need startup money to make it profitable. And it's because of the history of TEDx. I think it's a real strong opportunity to bring real economic development to Woodstock on a big scale.
Marion and then Mika.
Yeah, I think I second that. And not only is it bringing people, but I think one of the interesting points in the Meyer events proposal was there's a lot of families and people that are coming. It would be great now that COVID's over to have more things for people to do who are here, and to kind of keep people engaged who either are already part of the community or who are coming in as tourists. And so like, this is an established organization. I think it elevates the profile of Woodstock in a lot of ways. I think it has a lot of positive impacts on not just tourism, but just in really creating, like branding for Woodstock.
Mika?
And also, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
just want to
sorry.
add one thing. I think there are some big issues that are starting to emerge as I get to know this better. And one is we want sort of innovation and young people and sort of that whole culture. And I think that TEDx, not that it's young, but it speaks a little bit more to the sort of like the South by Southwest TEDx kind of innovation, and brings people that are thinking about things to the community.
So old people don't think about things that we say.
No, I'm in my 50s. I don't think about anything.
Do you remember what you just said?
What?
All right.
Oh, when I said it?
You didn't say anything.
Mika, go ahead.
I agree with everything that has been said, with the addition of just a pride. I think that the community would really embrace this.
Yeah.
And I think there would be a pride of community for people, involved. I think it lends the opportunity for speakers from all over, including locals, to, speak their truth to their neighbors. And that's not an opportunity that's afforded very often. I think it would be a really great community building event.
Other comments?
I think the international reach too. I mean, there's a huge reach in TEDx. That's the other part of this too. It's like, where can we get this kind of reach to put Woodstock on the map as not the music place?
Don't worry, Patrick, you can't drive buses over the Atlantic.
All right, any other comments on TEDx?
Larry just raised his hand.
Larry, thank you, Patrick. Larry, go ahead.
You're muted, Larry.
And invisible.
So it is.
All right.
Hi,
My
Larry.
my concern was, and this is something Deborah could probably talk about, was just, it seemed like an awfully large amount of money. I agree with the impact. I just think it was a lot of money for that. What can you say to that? I asked before about, like, how did they fund it in Stowe and Burlington? And
Actually, Larry, sorry, I just want to make a process suggestion here. I actually think that someone other than Deborah should answer that question because the other applicants don't have the ability. So in this case, Deborah's an applicant. So other people listened and so forth. Can someone else respond, Todd?
Yes, I can answer a little bit of it. The part of the funding is the initial setup of the TEDx requires certain metrics to be met, particularly their logo and design package, stage build out and whatnot. So the initial funding to put on the initial event is fairly high, but then that levels off because those things aren't part of the spend moving forward. You have to use their branding and they control a lot of that to protect that brand. So I think that's what made it more expensive, was my understanding when we went through the application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Larry, are you okay with that?
well,
I mean, do you have any further questions? I didn't mean to ask what your vote is. But
well, how much is that? How much is the expense that's associated with being part of the TEDx?
Deborah
I
spelled
don't
it out, Larry, and Deborah spelled it out really well in her proposal, if you got
Yeah.
that in front of you.
I think that this is 100. What I like about this, I voted abstain, but I'm sort of, as I'm thinking about what to vote. What I like about this is $100,000 investment in an event. And we're being asked to fund 25,000 of it. That to me feels like we're going to get an event that is a real event. I think it also fits with the brand. I'm not worried about that amount of money. If I would rather overinvest, I don't think this money will be wasted to create an event that people from Boston and Montreal will drive here to. And, with due respect to our other events, there aren't a lot of events that are.
So would you change down there, somebody else get some skin in the game besides us?
Oh, well, we're paying for 30% of it.
Yeah,
By the way, it's similar to Vale Field. It's another reason why I happen to like Vale Field is that it's a $90,000
Yeah.
project.
Mhm.
These are big
Yep.
things that feel like they will move the needle. And so I like that. I'm not advocating we waste money. I don't think we will, but to your point, the amount of money is actually, to me, an indication that this has a better chance of success. So Marion and then Larry, if you still want to comment.
Just one thing that gave me comfort about the structure is like, this is a licensed program that has been done in many, many places. And so I feel like there's a little bit of risk mitigation there. And that the structure as a nonprofit, like, as I understand it, it's baked into the structure that the ticket sales from the first year, those, what we would think of as profits, those are required to be rolled over into the next year to support the program. So I won't say it again.
Larry, did you want to? I couldn't
No,
talk.
that's why I was medium. I wanted to hear that. I appreciate the answers.
And I think that's an important thing too, the idea that this is replicating something that's been done hundreds of times. So it's not like this is being reinvented. It's been invented and the process is already there.
People love it.
Okay. Any other comments on TEDx? And Deborah, thanks for understanding that for this one, you were an applicant, not a EDC member. Okay. I've updated the sharing on the screen, but if we look at this now, it's a little bit, the points and the votes are a little bit out of order, but we've got, do we need, looking at the ones that were very high and also the ones that were very low, are there people, let's start with the ones that are low. Or let's start with the ones that are high. Are there people who voted for the 7s, 8s, and 9s who think that they might be convinced otherwise? That would be the digital media coordinator, the administrator, the revolving loan fund, the 3 housing projects, the streetscape enhancement, Bookstock, startup Woodstock,
I'm very firm in those positions.
the nursery school, actually now in Vale Field. Is there anyone who feels like they're unsettled? That those all have 7 or more votes. We're still going to vote, by the way. I'm just, but just asking if we need to have discussion. And then for this, there's some 0s and 1s and 2s, 0s, 1, 2s, and 3s. So 2 votes away. I abstained on 1 or 2 of those, but given, I'll just explain there were 3 big investments in events: TEDx, the Meyer events, and Appalachian Trail. I felt like I only wanted to vote for one of those to see what funding a big event would be, and plus Bookstock, sorry, so I think that those 2 are good bites to chew off. I like the Meyer events and the idea of the Appalachian Trail Days for what it's worth. I think the Appalachian Trail Days need some time to give us a proper proposal. I think it's a very creative idea, but I think that Daniel, isn't quite ready for, I'd really like to fund that next year. And,
Yeah.
He wasn't baked yet. so he
Exactly.
wasn't baked.
yeah, it was half baked, but it could be fully baked. And I think we would encourage him to, it would be my view. I think the same thing is true for the Meyer events. I really think that he's got some great expertise, and I think he may proceed without us anyway, and that giving some support when it's a bit more established might be possible. So anyway,
John.
I'm sorry. So Deborah.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the
And then
Myers. Myers.
We're just sort of talking generally about these lower ones. Go ahead, Deborah, and then Mika.
Can I speak specifically to one of the ones you mentioned?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I agree. I love the Appalachian idea, and I'm looking forward to be fully baked. And I think would be happy to help with that. I think that's a great idea. And the Myers, I think it's really interesting, and I think he's got some really good juju going. And I don't know if this is against what we're looking at, but I would support funding him for a smaller amount for him to give. I want to see him do a project. I think it's a little bit vague right now, and he's kind of new to the community, but he's got some great ideas. And so it would be really cool to give him enough to fund something that he could show, and then, come back. Anyway, so that's my thought on that one.
Do you have a proposal on what that might look like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I don't know, at half, or something like that, that was my thought.
Mika, and then I have a quick response to that. But first, Mika.
Yeah, I was in favor of the full proposal from Meyer. I'll be completely honest, when I first read the application, I was like, I don't know, does this work? And then when I heard him talk about it, suddenly it really felt like it made so much more sense. And I think he does have the experience and the know-how to pull it together. Yes, it's new and it's a little bit of a risk, but I think it's a good risk. And or let me rephrase, I think it's a low risk. I think it's a calculated risk. And I think that the possible benefits are pretty high. But if nobody else was on board with the full funding, I could get on board with partial funding. Certainly, I think in a perfect world, enough money to do more than one, because I think one is kind of, what are we really learning from that? You need at least 2 or 3 small.
I meant to
events.
by the way, I didn't mean one event. I meant enough to produce one series of something, because he mentioned a bunch of different things, and I just want to pick one and do it.
Hone in on one. Sure, absolutely. I could get on board with that. I think that I do think that there's a lot of benefit there, and I think that it provides a big benefit to the community. I would be very interested in speaking. I felt the same way that everybody else did about the Appalachian Days. I think it's a great idea. I think it's kind of half baked, but is it me or does Does Bookstock also kind of feel, I mean, I know it has like a long history, and so I get that, but does it also kind of feel a little half-baked, or is that just me?
I think they're trying to make the step to make it less bigger, and more polished. I think it just lacks a little polish, but they've
Okay.
done it. I think they've done it so many years that they've got that routine down, and now they're trying to step up. So I think that's
Okay.
different. I put a
I
medium.
could get on board with Bookstock then. I could turn my medium into a high, definitely.
I had medium for Meyer, and I had medium for Meyer because I wasn't quite sure, although he had talked to the other businesses. Why can't I think of the name? The other people who do shows.
Pentangle,
Thank you.
Artistry, et cetera.
And so because he had talked to them, I felt like there's something there, and he clearly has the connections and the experience of doing this type of thing. So I could easily make mine a high on this.
I'd just like to make a comment about the idea of giving either of these folks, or anyone actually, but just since it was raised for possibly for the Appalachian Trail or for the Meyer event production, a smaller grant to sort of try something. Well, with I guess I'm a little bit, it goes back a little bit to Michael's point about tinkering with the grants, which I think the purpose of the other splitting that we were doing is to send a message and to set us in a
Yes.
direction.
Yes.
I don't like tinkering in general. And the reason I don't, and maybe this is why you don't like Michael either, is because it's giving money for something that we don't exactly know what it is. But I think in the case of Meyer Productions, perhaps they could we could give them a third of the money and they could do a third of the events, and that would be a good pilot test if that's feasible. So
I can't see how you're gonna split up the Appalachian Trail money.
no, I don't think the Appalachian Trail one
Yeah.
can be split up.
But
So
we can work and make that ready for next year. I
correct,
think.
Yeah.
right. So
The Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, help.
So are we suggesting then, I'm just asking again, we'll put this up to a quick consensus, raise your hand vote. Are we suggesting that what we vote on with respect to Meyer event is, I'm just picking to make it,
Well, I would
do
just.
you want to have a
no,
suggestion?
go
I was gonna
ahead.
say, should we, let's vote on whether or not to grant them a third of the money for a third of the events, and to ask him to set that money aside. If he's prepared to do that, then we give him the grant. If he says that that's not feasible, then we don't. Is that, I'm
I
not,
just wanted to sort of share a thought in response to that, where, and maybe, I don't know if I'm right about this, and maybe I'm a bit of I've been in Vermont a long time curmudgeonly, but I think this may be the only proposal where we really don't, it's completely unproven. Like all these others are either someone we've worked with, an organization we know about. I have total faith. I'm sure he's a wonderful person and he is all that he says, but
Myers.
but I
Jeff
just
Myers,
feel like
he's
we
right
haven't
there
done due
on the meeting.
diligence to, and this is nothing to
Yeah,
offend him in any
Yeah.
way. I just feel like I don't actually feel super confident that I know that the 25K, it's a lot of money to
Yeah.
give someone that I don't know anything
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
other
I'm-
than what he told
right,
me.
I'm just
What
asking,
you're saying is there's not enough track record for you to be confident about.
Yeah, thank you.
but I'm just asking a process question, which is when we express our opinion about
Yeah.
this, do we want to express our opinion about a $25,000 grant or a $8,300
And
grant?
I think it sort of goes to support the idea of maybe
Okay.
a
So-
small
I feel like
steps.
we should have asked the applicants
I agree.
ahead of time if they would take a partial grant.
I agree.
Yeah.
For
next
him,
time.
this is a side gig for him. So if we're
That's
gonna give him
that's an
$8,000
excellent
bucks,
point,
is it worth his
He
time
may,
to put all that effort into doing
Right.
one or
It
two?
may not.
events?
Yeah,
But at the risk of passing nothing, this might be an opportunity to at least pose that question, but definitely for next year,
we should be asking.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agree
But
completely.
but I would encourage us, I would encourage us to just think practically about what can be done when we're talking about events and we're talking about bringing people in and we're talking about renting space. I mean, he
Yeah.
was talking about there are a lot of different pieces that go into that. So I would encourage us to think practically about what is required financially to make even one event happen,
Yeah.
much less, say 2 or 3. And I think if we're talking about trying to help him sort of build a test case, then $8,300, I'm guessing is maybe gonna do one,
Okay.
one event. I have no idea. And this goes back to what Michael said
Oh, well,
about.
let me withdraw my suggestion. And I would like to, it's just my personal opinion, I would like to consider Meyer event and Appalachian Trail in the same context. We like both ideas. Trying to make up the proposal right now. I mean, Jeff is on the call. He's muted his camera because we're not going to let him speak because it's not fair. Rather than try to make something up, he's probably sitting there thinking, these guys are nuts. Why don't we work with both of them? We have a procedure to grant funds prior to next year.
It's a great idea.
I'm not saying we should do that. Certainly, both of these could be ready for a big grant next year. If it's sooner than that, fine, but let's not try to make up their business for them. Is that, are people in this
I'll
room
second that.
seem okay with
Yeah.
that? Are you okay with that?
I'm
All
all-
right, folks online, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I mean, to make sure I'm understanding, what you're suggesting is that we reach out to him outside of this call, ask him how he might want to proceed, if he wants to try and get something together for this year. We have a process to deliver funds outside of this meeting.
Only if we vote against giving him the grant, which,
It's really against giving him the full amount. So we're pretty
Right,
much saying,
right.
contact and say, will you take less?
well, no, we haven't voted on him yet. If we vote to not, what we're going to vote on is the full grant.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we've agreed on. And then if we decide not to, I think what we're saying, and we may say this with some of the other applicants, but I think I've just
We
at
should
least
work
identified,
together.
we
Yeah.
should work together. Let's keep working together.
Yes.
We like this idea. We weren't ready to vote on it. And we would say that to several of them, perhaps.
Clarifying question. We should work together for this year, or we should work together for you to apply again next year?
I would say we should work together. I'm saying that intentionally.
It
Okay.
could be one or the other.
It could be one,
Okay.
because it could be one or the other. I don't want to, personally, I do, and I've always been this way. I think Larry has disagreed with me and so forth, which is fine. I am instinctively against doing grants within a year. I think this annual process that we've just been through is a good way of doing it. And I think economic development takes decades, not months. And so therefore, I don't want to tilt. I'm not, we've already agreed we're going to do grants whenever 6 of us say that we should do a grant. I just don't want to put my thumb on the scale to encourage people more to do it frequently. If it happens, it
That's
happens.
fair.
It's
I'll-
an outlier.
It's an outlier. I'll vote for it if it's a great idea, even if it's in August, but I just
Yeah.
don't want to be biased towards it.
Okay.
Because I'm biased
Yeah.
against it. So I'll try to be
That's
neutral.
fair.
All right. Okay, so given that, then are there any others that we need to discuss in order for trying to influence people
Yes.
to move?
Yes, I would like to discuss the abracadabra.
Yeah.
I want to just say that, you come into these things, we read all this information, and you have an idea on what you're gonna think you're gonna vote anyway. We all have that, right? And I was like, this is ridiculous. And the listserv people and this and private, all these things. And I just want to say that, again, while I don't think that's the best run business, that isn't the only deciding factor, right? You need a place to pee and poop in the East End.
That's right.
It's a lot of money to build that. If these folks could put 2 bathrooms in for the price of the 20, the ADA required, and then a small one that doesn't have to be ADA, and we can get a guarantee of operating hours and days from them, we will save money for this town for folks that need a place to go to the bathroom. Now, they've already committed to, you don't have to shop in that store to go in there and whenever they're open. So I'm saying if we can get them to commit on what that is in writing, and we can get
They're operating. hours.
their operating hours, and if we can get them to shove another bathroom in, I think that's a win for the community because we're saving money to get what we need to do anyway. So this is an instance where a private thing that I was completely against, I'm 100% for.
Yeah, but look, I think my problem with that.
So
is-
hold on one
sorry.
second. Mika, because your hand was up first, and then Michael.
Well, just a clarifying question for Todd. While I agree, absolutely, 2 bathrooms would be better. I'm also just going to side note, I love that you said pee and poop. But just because it was funny. But so, I mean, while I agree 2 bathrooms, of course, is much better, but does that mean that if we can only get 1, it's not worth it? Because as far as I'm concerned, we need a bathroom in the East End, period, no matter what.
I think it is worth it. I'm just trying to shove another thing because it's a lot cheaper to build a non-ADA. I'm just like trying to get more out of it, but I agree with you.
Sure.
We need a
Mi-
bathroom.
Michael and then Deborah.
I mean, so we're paying 20 grand for a bathroom that may only last 5 years.
Ask him.
At the same time, these guys are only open 3 days a week right now.
That's right.
And they don't have any in the near future plans to open 7 days. They say, yeah, we'd like to be open 6 or 7 days,
There's no
but
guarantee.
but-
Yeah.
are you wanting to spend $20,000 on a 5-year planned bathroom that's only open 3 days a week?
No, I need guarantees
No,
on
it's-
hours of opening.
However, we would, as a town, which the town doesn't have any money, so it means the EDC, because the town's not gonna do it. But as a town, we would need to spend, I don't know, 40 or 50, like bathrooms aren't cheap. So if the town's gonna build bathrooms at the East End, are we gonna somehow spend 40 or 50 or 60 grand on, 3 stalls that are open 24/7 and the money that it costs to clean it? And
Yeah.
like, that just doesn't make any sense. We'd be saving money this way.
And I feel like that we turned this proposal into a public bathroom proposal, as opposed to a bathroom in a cafe proposal. I really think that we kind of hijacked this one and turned it into public bathroom, and I think
Oh, for sure.
they were just like, whoa, we didn't want this to turn into a public bathroom, but we do.
Yeah.
So what
right,
you're saying
Hold
is-
on, Deborah and then Joe.
All right.
Sorry.
The thing that I'm concerned about, I agree absolutely 100% with Mika and Todd, that we need the bathroom, that it can be a cost savings, all of those things. I also agree with you, Michael, that we did hijack it this a bit, but like, we just need to make sure that we are on board. My concern about the one bathroom is it's a narrow entrance into that facility. And there will be a line, and there's already a line for coffee. And that's why I think it's only going to work for the public if there is a smaller bathroom and a larger bathroom and a larger opening. And so it needs to be understood that it's not just a bathroom that suits your needs. It needs to be constructed in a way that you're not going to get upset with 3 months into it and say, this doesn't work. It's too big a line and it, gets in the way of us doing our business. So it needs to be worked. If we're going to do it, it needs to be worked with them to make sure that it's feasible, like it works for their business, that we didn't just hijack it and they're going to say yes, but it's really not a yes. Like it's got to work.
Joe?
What about here we go, I'm trying to adjust some of this. I don't want to do that, but what I'm thinking is, what if we build public bathrooms that we give them access to when they need it?
Well, we'd have to come up with a proposal.
Yeah,
to that.
that's
We'd have
right.
to-
And we'd have to
And
come up with some kind of
And then
proposal
the
to do
town
it.
owns them forever.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah,
5-year deal.
and yeah, I mean, and
This doesn't make any
they'd have
economic sense.
access to it,
It's
but
5 years of lease.
yeah,
And then what happens after 5 years?
I understand.
Let's say the tenants are like, oh, well, we don't want to rent it out to a business. We want to turn this back into residential, and then like we're out bathrooms.
Yeah, or just gets demoed or whatever.
Do we want to, from a process point of view, do we want to vote on this proposal? Or do we want to vote, or do we want to add a set of requirements to it to turn it into a public bathroom proposal?
I think to speak toward, hijacking the application and turning it into one for a public bathroom, then you're right. We're not speaking to just the benefit that Abracadabra has on our town. And I think that most people would agree that Abracadabra is a benefit to the town. It has absolutely 100% become, a go-to place, a stop for tourists, just the same way Worthy has. It has a reputation far beyond Woodstock. It has a youthful feeling, that I think all of us are hoping Woodstock will continue to adopt. It's a place for kids to hang out too. It's a coffee shop. That's where kids go. Joe, you know that, I mean, when Montverde isn't full of tourists because it's right there and it's full of tourists, when Abracadabra isn't full of tourists, then that's where kids go. I think it's a part of the community. And I think we're missing that part.
Joe, and then Larry.
I think the East End is gonna be there for a very long time. for as long as we're gonna be around. Abracadabra is growing. They may be there this year, 5 years from now, and then they're gone. And then what? I think as an economic development commission, if we are concerned about a bathroom situation in the East End, we should further encourage somebody to approach us about how to put bathrooms at the East End. And if Abracadabra is there and it's close to them, they can use them. I mean, I think, as I said earlier, before we put the Welcome Center in, there were no public bathrooms in town. Everybody had to go to Bentley's upstairs to use the bathroom. I mean, that's what it was. So even the people at Bentley's went upstairs to use the bathroom. So I think, you know, in the long term, let's entertain an application from somebody to put bathrooms in the East End and give Abracadabra access to it.
All right, Larry, have you put your hand down?
Yeah, I put it down because Joe said exactly what I was concerned.
Todd, and you said exactly what he was gonna say. Todd and then Michael.
I've changed my view. I do think that we can hopefully wrangle someone to make a more permanent solution. I hadn't thought or considered these things, and they do make a lot of sense. They swayed me back to the direction. I would say that we need to have it flushed out. Mike, you like that? But what we should do is try to support their business as best we can and see if what kind of solutions can be available that address these issues for us. And it probably is best suited on the parkland.
Yeah.
And Abracadabra customers can use it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, look, I think we have to, and Mika, you're right. These guys are awesome. They're doing a great job. It's exactly what the town needs. And we're psyched to have something like this. But I think we need to look at this application as, this is an application for a bathroom for the business. This is not an application for a public restroom for the town. And I think if we just change that and we look at it and say, okay, do we want to spend 20 grand to help Abracadabra put plumbing in for a bathroom? That's what this application is. It's nothing to do with public East End bathrooms.
That's
That
right.
we hijacked that at the meeting. This is just about them having a bathroom.
Yeah, I don't,
Wait, I have to just press
The
pause
give
there for a
back
moment.
is
and
public.
pick the application back up, because that might be what we are talking about. But if I remember correctly, that is not the entirety of their application. I mean, I think the entirety of their application was, we are looking for funds, not only for a bathroom, but also to expand our operations so that we can run in this new building. They're in a new building. They're no longer in that cute little red one. They're up top in the cute little glass one. And so if I remember correctly, the funds that they're looking for, they're not entirely for a bathroom. That's just, again, what we all hooked on to.
I can read
But-
the two sentence overview. of
Yeah.
their-
Thank you, Mary.
We are looking for support to make upgrades on our current building at 52 Pleasant Street, which will allow for us to transition from being takeout only to a full-time cafe next to the East End Park in order to be open in this greater capacity.
Right. Yeah,
There you
so
go.
I'll make two comments, just one philosophical, which is I agree completely with Michael that we hijacked this proposal and tried to
Yeah,
convey it as a, however, I would say that that's absolutely perfectly what we should be doing. And not necessarily in this case, but in this, and what we did was to try to take something that was just purely for the benefit of a private business and try to see if we could create a public accommodation. So I don't have any problem with that. However, Michael, I'm also convinced by your argument that what we should be looking for
yeah,
is a permanent solution in the East End. And so I'm going
That's
to vote
right.
against it.
that's right.
The second thing is that, and this is just my opinion, maybe Mika, we disagree about this, or at least in this specific case, but I don't believe that when we talk over the course of the next 6 months about what we mean by economic and community development, I'm going to argue against supporting businesses that are great businesses. Just because they're great businesses, they're cool, they fit the brand, they're a place that people go to and enjoy. I think that's fantastic for Woodstock. I think those businesses are all have funds available to them, and I'm going to vote that not be what we do. No, let me put it differently, that the public benefit of a great business is not sufficient to warrant taxpayer funds because there'll be another great business. Anyway, for that reason, and we can debate that. I just wanted to kind of set a marker for that discussion. I think we have to decide whether that is something we do or do not support. And we'll, I think, no doubt have a debate about that, because I can understand the rationale for why we would support cool businesses. I'm opposed to picking winners and losers. I think that that's a very dangerous economic development strategy. But anyway, we'll come to that.
Cool businesses, but businesses that are in fact a draw and help with the economic development of the community. But I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask one other question. It sounds like pretty much everyone has the same opinion, which is great. So if no matter who we are voting against on the list, if people do not receive the funds that they have requested, would the EDC, if a loan fund were to come into fruition, would the EDC be open to offering those loan funds to these applicants first and letting them know that this loan fund is available?
Oh,
You
great
mean
question.
giving priority to the people who've applied this year? I would be opposed to that.
I would be opposed to it.
On principle, I would be happy to have, I would be very happy to have them all apply.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's not fair to give them priority.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
But anyway, that can we deal with that? We will deal with that question. If we vote for the research into the loan fund, we can deal with that question as we work to establish the loan fund. So it isn't off the table. It's just, let's, yeah.
And
Okay.
I guess the question I would ask too, John, is Abracadabra any different than Woodstock Wheels?
Exactly.
Right. Okay, I think we've talked about Abracadabra. There's one other, Roger Logan, not as a support person for the EDC for tonight, because he's tallied up the comments. Roger, do you just want to briefly bring to our attention something we have not discussed that had very significant public support?
Yeah, and this is to some extent in full disclosure, because personally, I do not think the EDC should be buying equipment for the town of Woodstock.
You're not allowed to.
But we're talking about the electric leaf blowers. I'd be okay with rakes.
No, wait, don't express your opinion.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Just
sorry.
tell us the
But
information.
I do have to say that 11 people posted positive comments about that. It was a large, it was, except for the housing, comments on the housing, it was by far the highest positive.
Right.
Positive. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
There's also,
Comments.
you never know who's posting the comments. Is it everyone in Sustainable Woodstock that's posting comments?
Ah.
They want it to pass. I mean, it could very well be. So I think that's not like the plus 10 positive comments means nothing. There's no.
I think electric leaf blowers are fantastic, and I'm gonna vote against this proposal.
I agree.
Because this is not, it is something that and on principle, I'm happy to send that signal because it's terrific for Woodstock. I donate to it.
There's no.
Yeah, but John, you know what? She said, the town is already investing in that, so if they're investing in electric chainsaws, so they're moving in that direction anytime. We don't have to kickstart it, I don't think, but it's a town handle, that's town business.
Stretch.
So does anyone want to speak in favor of electronic leaf blowers?
I do. I
Todd?
want to say, I love them, but I'm not voting for it.
All right, so does anyone want to speak in favor of funding electric leaf blowers? Sorry.
I thought I was gonna vote yes on that. I thought I was.
You're welcome to vote yes, sorry.
You still
But,
can.
I mean, now that you're saying what you're saying, maybe you're right. It's true. Maybe it's a town thing. I don't know. I struggle with that because I always come back to with what money? And I look at gas prices right now and I'm like, well, sheesh, man, that's not gonna work. So, I don't know. I thought I was gonna vote yes on that. Maybe now I'm a medium.
Doesn't fit any of our purposes.
Can I give you a medium
Probably right.
point of view? And I know
Probably right.
it's getting late, but the reason why I was thinking about voting yes, I think I was one of the too highs, was yes, they need more batteries, et cetera, but it's a smaller grant, and it could end up creating again a white paper or beginning, be a pilot program to show what can be done in small communities, et cetera. I think that they need help creating that program. I don't think this grant creates that program, but I think it's a good program to create.
So do I.
Yeah, me too.
I just don't think we should fund it
Yeah, great.
because it's not economic development.
That's right.
Well,
Or it's
and
too
if-
indirect. It's too
then-
indirect.
And the people who presented it, they should be, if we do the grants manager thing, I'm sure there's grant money for this.
Great point.
Actually, was this the applicant who basically said, we know this isn't the mission of the EDC, but we're just looking for funding anywhere we can get it?
No.
Was it a
no,
different-
no,
that was a
this
different
thing-
applicant?
She tried to make a
Who
direct.
said that?
Well, one applicant did. I hope it's not one that we're voting for, but I don't remember.
Or was it the female farmers thing?
No.
No, was it?
That was.
No,
It
All right,
was
lady.
Sustainable Woodstock.
it was?
Okay, so
Yeah, it must have been the day that I wasn't there because I didn't hear that. That's hysterical.
And by the way, I would just like to say female farmers and a bunch of other projects in addition to the leaf blowers. I love a lot of these ideas.
Yeah,
Me too, yeah.
absolutely.
You know, I mean, I love almost all of them, maybe all of them.
Well, I've said in the past, I love all of them. I think every single, I think I wrote in one of the posts, the listserv, that every pre-application or every application, I don't remember which I wrote, is someone in the local community trying to make Woodstock better. And
Yeah.
there's no, it's unambiguous. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Every single one of these
One-
things.
I would disagree.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're not gonna
We can-
debate
we can
that.
Talk about that one.
Just for tonight.
No, I don't-
No,
I'm
Which
fine.
one?
All
Which
right.
one?
No, come on. All right.
No, one of the grant applications. I totally disagree with you.
Okay, that's
Now
fine.
look
It's
at-
okay. It's okay. I was just making
Yeah.
a philosophical point, but which might not be fine. We can disagree. All right, are there any other grant applications that we need to discuss if people either at the low end or the high end, think that they need more information or more debate?
I have a question about the brasserie and
Yeah.
not just of a personal reason, because I'm seeing that it's all low, and I was actually pretty surprised by that one. Because I feel like that is a business that is filling a need in this town, as has been proved. I think we had 2 different groups come in and say, what
Right.
does Woodstock need to make itself economically viable? And a bar was always at the top of that list. And so here's someone who's spending a lot of their own money, providing jobs, well-paying jobs, and you've got facade improvement, if you want to do that. I mean, for the crappy old building that was there, and then she's filling a niche. So like, how is that not at the root of the EDC?
Yeah.
Private, for profit, nonprofit, I don't care, but
Right.
how does that not meet all of the criteria?
I believe, this is my belief, and other people can speak about it. I believe that the EDC, that a business, that giving money, that a private business that cannot make money without taxpayer support is not a private business that we want to have in Woodstock. In other words, if you say, I want to start a business, but I can't make enough money on its own, so I need taxpayer money to do it, I would say I'd rather have an empty lot until a business that can make money is ready to operate.
Yeah,
Now,
but that's kind of like Larry's whole startup thing. It's like startup is looking for help. That's the whole point.
John, can I jump in here for a second?
sure.
One of the reason I had the issue with it is I applaud everything she's trying to do. I think it's wonderful. But what she was really asking for was for us to give her money so she could pay employees more. And that's for me, that became the, okay, I would love to get more money and pay my employees more as well. And so for me, that was the non-starter. If it was to help build change the facade or something like that, it would have been different. But for me, she's really looking for salaries for people. So that was my struggle with it.
Mika and then Todd.
Yeah, same. I love the business. I will happily go there and support it with my own funds, but the application specifically said that, or in my memory, the funds would be used for 9 weeks of salary. And that to me was a non-starter. I was like, well, what do you do on week 10 then? And maybe it's, hoping that, you're in the black by then. I don't know, but I couldn't get on board with something that was so specific.
Todd.
I echo both sentiments.
Yeah, I was just asking, and it's hard because then we say, oh, we don't want to pay for improvements, but we don't want to pay for salary either. So it's kind of like we're on this tight tightrope where we're kind of like, what are we gonna pay for?
I'll eat there enough where she can pay all this.
Yeah, I
all
mean,
those
I'm
folks.
just curious.
Mary,
Yeah, I mean, I think that like a lot of this is not for tonight, right? It's like, even your point of like, I don't want to support a business that wouldn't succeed with that taxpayer money. I don't know, maybe like if, because to your point originally about the bathrooms, if they provided a service and we only had to pay for a fraction of it, you know, as opposed to doing it as a nonprofit.
that's
I
not
just-
paying for a business.
I don't
That's-
think we can
No, but
predict
it's
if they're going
investing,
to succeed with or without our money. I mean, that's an unknown. It's, you know, I mean, it's someone looking at our homepage and saying, oh, okay, is Woodstock Wheels, same thing. They're just happen to be a year in.
But I was just gonna finish, like, I think there's a lot of bigger discussions that fits into, but for me, the idea of supporting, basically increasing wages with this money, I think supporting ways to build the middle class is important, but I think maybe as an EDC, we look at things that have a broader impact. So, you know, for example, if we support childcare, that benefits all the employees. And so it's effectively making everybody's wages worth more, right? Or if we support housing or other community activities, those effectively make it as though your wages are higher because it makes your cost of living lower. It makes it more of a livable place on that same wage, rather than giving one business. This was my thinking. That was my concern.
I think we have, just to your point about a big discussion coming, and we're obviously going to go past 9 o'clock, but I don't think we'll go much past it, hopefully. Let's just see. So I think we can try to wrap it up tonight. But I think that one of the major discussions is really going to be around this issue that you're raising, or that we've raised multiple times tonight. You know, we use the word economic development and we would equate that with business, and we would create business with merchants to some extent.
Sure.
You know, merchants are actually a relatively small part of the Woodstock economy. Every one of us contributes by earning money wherever we earn. I've actually have some questions out to economists as to how do you measure the size of a local economy in terms of GDP contribution. Merchants, by the way, are a very important part of it, and maybe more important than the numbers. And I don't exactly know what the numbers are, so we need to find that out. And I think that will inform us as to what extent should we be supporting existing businesses in their survival and thriving. And I am not ready yet to say we should be doing that. I don't want to rule it out.
And it's hard because it's on our purpose. It's like number 2. So maybe we delete that because I think we're going to start deterring businesses from actually coming here, whether that's wanted or not.
Yeah,
it's a side effect.
I'm not sure about that, but I think what we're going to do over the rest of this year is to go back to 4 words. And unfortunately, one of them is and, so only 3 of them mean anything. Economic and community development. What do we mean by that? As you say, we've said at one point it means something. We've said 18 things.
At least, yeah.
So well, yeah. So we're going to have this today. And I think right now for tonight or for this process, we're just each going on our instincts. I personally don't think our instincts are bad. That doesn't mean we made a great decision in the Brasserie case, whatever. But I think overall, when I look at this list, I think we've made some good choice. Anyway, let's see what the list is. Are there any other items on the list that we need to discuss?
I would like to discuss the facade program. I voted low on that, I think. I would like to know whether, sorry.
Wait, sorry, could you repeat your question, Mika?
I would like to know whether there is an option of using the funds that would have otherwise been, or if the village facade program were fully funded, would it be possible to use those funds as the stick rather than the carrot?
Well, could I, as I wrote on behalf of all of us, I wrote that proposal.
On that.
Okay, sorry, I wrote that proposal. It doesn't make me the owner of it. I wrote it on behalf of the EDC. I voted low because I think it's half baked. And I think that your question is one of the reasons why it's half baked. I think we need to explore a lot of things, including the stick. And to me, a stick, and as you put it, maybe funding the stick instead of funding the carrot makes sense. I'm just not ready to say that it is or isn't. So I think that's why I voted low, is I think we need another year to figure this one out. Joe?
Well, I struggle with that one as much as any of the others. And the struggle lies in, well, several different directions. I think essentially one of the major issues we're talking about is Bentley's Corbin's, right? And it's been said to me, what got me going in one direction. Well, you may not like it, Joe, but it's something you have to do for the good of the town. And I gave that some thought and I said, well, there's something to that, you know, because realistically, you cannot drive through town, you cannot walk through town without going by that building. You just can't do it. And it is essential to the appearance of what Woodstock is about. So I was going, yeah, maybe. And then giving it more thought and looking at other folks in town and what they're doing, I'm saying to myself, you know, we've got some very hardworking, responsible business people here in town now. That are working hard and doing the right thing. You know, I can use examples like Woody's or the Smith family with, you know, what they're doing, and the bakery now, you know, I mean, they're working hard. They're doing what they're doing. They're making their own improvements. They're expanding on their own. This guy, in my opinion, what's happening at Bentley's is, you know what? I don't care if it looks terrible. And let the town clean it up. I'm not gonna take responsibility for it. These other people are taking responsibility for their business. And they're doing the right things, working hard to make it right. That's not what's happening at Bentley's.
Are you arguing for or against this
Against it.
facade? Okay, well, I mean, unless,
And I'm just, maybe I'm just venting a little bit.
no, 8 of us voted not high, so
Yeah.
unless
This
there's,
doesn't have votes.
is there
Well, and
someone?
I guess to be more specific about my original question, I guess I'm asking if perhaps today, if everybody that voted low, which I think I voted low, if I didn't, I voted medium, but just so that we could have the conversation. Which I guess actually goes back to rebaking a grant application, which perhaps we've already decided we don't want to do. But I would really love to implement the stick. If I understand correctly, according to Jill, there are rules in place that tell people that they can't let their building get to this certain place, and they're required to keep it at a certain level. And so rather than rewarding people by giving them money to, you know, fix it up, could we enforce the rules that are already in place? And if I understand, it's because we don't have somebody to do that. So could we use these funds to hire somebody to do that work?
Yeah, so,
And
right, so Mika, just for point of information, so after Jill mentioned that in the discussion of this proposal, I went back and I asked her to send me the list of the rules. And I read the rules and I've asked her some questions about them. Sorry?
Who's her?
Jill
Jill.
Davies
Oh, yeah.
who mentioned what Mika said, that there are already rules. We don't need to set up the rules. I read through the rules. I'm not an attorney, but they did not seem to me to be enforceable the way they're currently written.
Yeah.
And she's put me in touch with the lawyer who wrote them,
Yeah.
but I haven't had time to kind of
Needs to be
call them.
legislated in town.
Well, it has been
But re-legislated.
well, I don't know whether it does or not. I'm not an attorney, but I had some questions about whether or not literally, she said the regulations were written to force Bentley's to repaint. So according,
But it's not enforceable.
well, no, I'm not saying that it is or isn't. I just said the words don't sound to me like they are, but maybe a lawyer would say, no, that you don't understand. That's probably the case.
Mhm.
Anyway, my point, Mika, is that I'm happy for us to continue to investigate this. I think this is an important issue. And I would be very happy to use the funds for the stick instead of the carrot. In fact, more happy because I think it would be more
Yes.
direct.
Yes.
But I just feel like tonight, I'd rather work on it. And then when we're ready, it could be in August again. That's something that I would vote for in the middle of the year if we
I
could
would
figure it
just-
out.
I would just want to plant a seed of doubt where I totally see the frustration, like it feels terrible to reward someone.
Yeah.
For not, but
Yes.
and the pragmatist in me says, do we really want to spend money to punish someone when we could just spend money to fix it and it would be fixed?
Right.
Like, so I just want to plant the seed of
I
doubt.
wouldn't
also
use,
just
I
setting
filling
wouldn't
a
out
use,
the
I
precedent.
wouldn't
time.
use, I
Precedent.
wouldn't use the word
Which is a
punish, I
problem.
would use the word motivate.
Well,
But
and
it's
I hear
precedent
what
for the
you're
rest of
saying,
the business
Marion.
owners in town, where you
Right.
don't have to take
Just
care of it.
planting a seed of doubt for when we discuss it later.
Well, but, and the thing is, you got to remember, if you set a precedence of that, then
Yeah.
why wouldn't everyone else do it?
So
You know?
Deborah, yeah, sorry, Pat, Deborah and then Mika again.
I mean, it could be semantics in the sense of the stick versus, a carrot. But again, it's, it could be the thing of like incentivize somebody for a reward for taking care of their building or whatever. But I'm actually raising my hand because there was one other thing that we hadn't gotten to, and I wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed it somehow, the expanding the welcome hours. I don't think we talked about, so I just wanted to bring that up. So
All right, let me
pardon
just,
me.
but no, hold on one second. Hold your hand up for a second. Mika, did you want to finish the comment on this, on facade?
Just to Marion's point about, I totally lost it. Oh, God.
The only reason for the pragmatic reason for doing it, if that's maybe the only way to get it done. is to-
Yes, and I feel like if we, yes, I get it. Right. Thank you. So is it worth spending money just to get somebody to do something when we could just spend it and do it ourselves? Is that really worth it? But I feel like spending money to get somebody else to do it is something where we only spend it, ideally in a perfect world, we spend it once to get the systems in place and get the people together that are going to enforce the rules, or lawyers or whatever we need to do, as opposed to continuing to pay however many people, however many dollars to fix buildings that they should be responsible for.
Yeah. Okay, last item perhaps. Deborah, sorry, you wanted to talk about what? The
we hadn't really talked about expanding the welcome hours, or did we?
We didn't.
we did not. Sorry, that now has 4. That moved up to 4. Maybe I've updated my list. Would anyone who's in favor, so it's got 4 positive votes. Anyone in favor want to speak about that? Or Deborah, do you want to speak about it?
I think it's a great idea to have expanded hours. I think personally, I would like to see, us work with them on some technology and look into what it would cost to, maybe not have a person there or that kind of thing. Like, I think that should happen. I'm not sure that the actual application that came forward is exactly how it should happen.
Joe?
Yeah, well, I feel, well, in the past, attempts have been made to encourage stores to stay open later, particularly on weekend, Friday and Saturday night. This was quite a while ago. I don't remember the details, but I know there was an attempt made and it wasn't successful. So in my opinion, unless the stores are open, there's, you're gonna get the stores around, they're gonna look in the window, but I don't think that would justify paying somebody to be in the Welcome Center waiting for them to use it. Those very few people, in my opinion. You can talk about cameras and other surveillance stuff. As a former police officer, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work. These guys, if they want something, they don't care if there's a camera on, they're gonna go in and get it. And they'll bust a window or bust a door or whatever they have to bust to get what they want to get. So
All right.
that's my feeling.
All right.
I hear what you're saying about the businesses staying open late. and we
That's the
would know that
key.
much better,
You get the
but-
business stay open, yeah, fine.
But what I heard her saying was that they close now at 5 and that they can never leave until 6 because there's always people getting out of there. So maybe it's an hour later or something, but I heard that there's already an issue.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
She said that her people, there's always people in there that prevent them from actually closing when they're supposed to be closing because there's still people there at 6 o'clock.
Are there people there at 9 a.m.?
I don't know. No, I just, I don't have any research in it. I just heard her, 2 things that I heard her say were that caught my attention with that. And also I heard a side remark, which maybe isn't worth bringing up now, but that they're paid less than $15 an hour for people there as well.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know
Sorry,
that.
Patrick?
Worth noting when we talk about the value of time.
Patrick?
All right, I voted high on this, and I'm maybe as a lodging property owner, it's a little different. But I hear from people all the time that town is closed. when and a lot of people are checking in at 5 or 6 o'clock. But I also think there's an opportunity for people coming out of, dinner, particularly the early dinner people, who might stop at the Welcome Center to figure out what they're going to do tomorrow, kind of thing. So I thought this was worth a test where we keep track of the numbers and see if it makes sense. So that was why I voted high for it. To the point of what Joe has said before, of being a welcoming town, having the Welcome Center open on later hours, I think is something that would be beneficial. I think it would be helpful, but I think we should do it as a test and do the numbers. If the numbers say it doesn't work, there's not enough people going there, then I think we say no on re-upping it or however it's going to be funded in the future.
I'll make a quick comment. I like sorry, Mika, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I voted high on this as well, mostly because I thought, okay, well, Beth is part of our meetings all the time. She knows what we do. She knows how much we have. She knows all the things. And she is asking very specifically for a little bit of money to help her keep the office open a little bit longer. People aren't generally asking to stay at work later unless they have to. So, if she sees a need for the office to stay open a little bit later because there are people in town that need a place to go, need a place to get information, need a welcome center, then I think that again goes back to the same thing that you guys have been talking about all along, welcoming and hospitality and all those things, and having town not be completely dead. But I do think what Patrick said, I think it would have to be a test, and obviously it's not something that we would be able to continue to fund. It's something that we would help fund a test, and if it worked, then it's something that they would build into their business model for the following year.
I think Patrick's right on. I mean, it's not a lot of money, and apparently there's a need for it. And I think you can count the visitors that are coming in. They can reset the counters after 5 just to kind of test it. And I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, my opinion has changed on this based on this discussion. I voted against it. I mean, I opined against it.
Even with my stomach issues?
Yes. Because of your stomach issues. You took my graham crackers yesterday. You're going to pay for that.
You can have them back.
Yeah.
But I think I like the idea of a test. I really just think that testing is important. We can measure it. I really reinforce what Michael said. I would like to.
John, I have one more question about this. I'm sorry, just about the welcome hours. Has there ever been a First Fridays kind of thing that might go in hand with trying this out? A First Fridays where the stores stay open late on the First Fridays during this period of time?
There's been, I think lots of people have suggested that concept and so forth, and it's never happened.
Right.
And that actually relates to one of the things that I'd like to see with the test is I think that the test is a gentle way to encourage businesses to think again about staying open later. And I understand if you're a merchant, it's like, I wouldn't want to stay open. I understand.
Well, the only way they're going to do it, John, they can figure they can make money at it.
Right, exactly. And so for me, the test of it would be, the success would be partly based on the number of people who come in. But for me, the big test would be at the end of this period of time, are there businesses that have opened up later? If there aren't, then all we're really doing is providing bathrooms. And those people, I can guarantee it, are finding other places, other facilities.
Before or after dinner.
Right, they're just finding other, since we don't have a problem with human waste accumulating in the village. So I don't think that's a problem we don't need to solve. People are finding facilities to use.
I think she specifically said this was a test and that
Correct.
she would.
And therefore I'll support
yeah,
it. But my point is, I'm just saying, how would I measure success? At the end of the time, I would hope that 4 or 5 businesses would open, following the lead of the Welcome Center, making it more amenable for people to find a place to use the restroom and encourage more traffic downtown, which requires more restrooms. In other words, it's a cycle. And that would be established. If in October, when this test is over, we found that 28 people a day come and use the facilities, and none of the businesses are open, except for, I think the Smith's business is open late.
The bar will be open.
Yeah.
And the bar, okay,
Which is right
fantastic.
there.
There we go. Make
So
some.
maybe you get more people stay
Yeah,
open.
and
Fantastic. That's my
yes,
point.
exactly.
It's a measure of success would be that, and that would be fun. And we're off to a good start. We've got the Smiths
I
and we've
bought a
got-
lot of art after drinking at
There you
the
go.
gallery.
So, okay. Anyway, so
He's
But
got his
in
hand
the end, Beth isn't looking for money for 2 or 3 years. She was just looking for money for 1 year. So that test really is kind of irrelevant to us.
yeah, but just to be clear, Beth, the chamber has every year looked for money for 1 year. So I think, no, I mean, that's to be fair. Beth would,
Are you recording this?
Beth is here. She's here. She would
Yeah.
understand. I mean, they're under financial
All right.
pressure too. So anyway,
John, Larry's hand is up, John.
thank you. All right, Larry, maybe last comment on this, and we'll see if there's any other topics. Larry?
Just that it falls into perhaps the later discussion that we're talking about, what is the responsibility of the village or town and certain things. I think this one squarely falls into the question of what is the responsibility of the Chamber of Commerce and what do its members want and what is, and if they would like to stay open later, but they would like to have the Welcome Center open later. It seems to me there's a cart before the horse situation here. I'd vote for it, but I think that definitely brings up that issue.
No, I agree. And I think that's why I wouldn't vote for it again. I would basically say, look, the EDC is here to help fund experiments. That's fine. I think that's a good thing, a good role we could play. If it proves to be successful, I'd fully expect the businesses to support it. And if they don't,
Could have a high reward for the minor investment.
yeah. So, okay. All right. Are there other grants that we need to discuss?
I would like to ask about, and I think maybe I'm the only person that voted for this. So I guess I'm just asking what everybody's sort of beef with the ice is. I felt like the Woodstock ice, I voted high because I thought, oh gosh, yeah, that'll bring all these people into town. The ice rink, the hockey rink. And I thought, that'll bring, they do bring a lot of people into town. I thought, okay, well, there's inns, there's restaurants, there's all the things. Not to mention, I'm always a sucker for, school things, school kid funds that need to be raised and parents that are trying to pay for hockey, which is an extremely expensive sport for their kids to.
I'll tell you why.
And so I don't know, it felt like a no-brainer to me. And then I was very surprised to see that I was the only one.
I'll tell you why I opined against it. I think hockey is, I think after-school sports, including hockey, are a really important part of our education process. I think math is a really important part of our education process. I don't think we should be paying for math or after-school sports. I think we have an
But
education.
what if math was hosting mathlete kind of event and was bringing X number of people into the town?
But Mika, that's not what this is about. They were
That's not
just,
what this grant is about.
right, they weren't, it's not about the ice rink. It's about ice time for the hockey teams.
This is to me, this was an educational expense. I fully support education. I pay a lot of education taxes and I'd be in favor of higher education taxes if that would help education. And that's how I think we should pay for it. In the same way, I think opioid reduction it's a societal issue. It's a very important societal issue. We're not the societal society, we're the Economic Development Commission. So
Okay, fair enough.
that's my argument anyway. Sorry, that's my argument.
And Mika, just so you know, it had nothing to do with whether they run tournaments at the rink or anything. This strictly was paying for ice time for the hockey teams to practice. That was specifically what it was.
I think a big part of it was also that there was a lot of kind of gray as to, the financials of the arena. And nobody understands how that works and how we're paying for ice time and it varies. And I think we can't get the arena's financials. And I think that is a big block to this.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think I really honed in on that one part of the presentation that was talking about how many people they bring into town. So it seemed to make sense to me, but okay.
Mika, I have to say, sorry, that does make sense. And it is different than a math class. I agree. The math class is unlikely to attract a lot of tourists. But still, I guess I'm trying to draw a bright line where there probably isn't necessarily a bright line. But it's where I lean. Larry?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to be on still.
Okay, any other topics that we should discuss? Oh, Mika, sorry, I feel like I jumped on you sort of there and like expressed my opinion like very energetically. It's just one of the, I don't mean to do that. Are you?
Oh,
Do you wanna
no,
keep
it's all
going?
good. I was just really trying to understand. I
That's why I voted it.
and I wasn't at that meeting.
Oh, wait, you muted.
No, all good.
Okay. All right. Any other grants we should discuss? I think we've discussed majority of them now. All right. No, hearing none. Okay. So let's just take a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Maybe I see people have been adjusting. Go back into click on grants at the top of the page and go through yours and adjust whatever you want to adjust.
And so
What is a
now
yes and
it's-
what is a no?
Yeah, exactly.
High is a yes
Okay.
and anything else is a no.
Oh, really? Can I re-enter my password?
Yeah, you may have been logged out. Yeah, so you just have to re-log in. I was kicked out. You all may be kicked out if you were kicked out.
And some of these where we had these conditional things, those would be a yes because we,
Right, so what we're voting on, just as a reminder, the things we're voting on the grants as submitted with the following exceptions, with village beautification, which is the lights and the flowers. We're voting on we're going to set aside the full amount of the grant. We're going to give them unconditionally half the grant, and we're going to ask them to do a good faith fundraising effort, and we'll trust them to evaluate that. So we're not going to have a big jury. We're just going to come back and tell us what you did, and if you need the money, then we'll give you the money. Vale Field, we're voting on the grant as presented with the contingency that they put up an historical placard or something that talks about the history of the plaque or placard. It might be whatever.
Yeah.
With the nursery school, we voted on setting aside again the full amount of money, giving them immediately 5,000 and asking them at their discretion if they need it to come back.
That's what a high would vote for.
A high, right? This is what voting for. High, if you vote high, that's for the fireworks, it's the same thing as we said for village beautification. We'll set aside the full amount, give you half the money, and ask you to come back, try to fundraise and come back if you need the rest, and you can have it if you tell us you need it. If you simply tell us you need it for all of these folks, we're going to trust you.
Mhm.
There's no test. We're just asking you to do this effort first. And the same thing for the greeter. We're going to look for same thing, and that's it.
and so I'm sorry, there were so many things, but Meyer and Bookstock, we didn't come up with a compromise proposal. It's just a yes or no.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Those are the only ones that we
So
came
now
up
we
with.
hit voting?
I did it.
No. So you're going to go to grants and you're going to put in any changes you want to make.
A yes is a high.
High.
A low is a no.
And a medium is a no.
Medium, a high is a yes. Everything else, you need 5 highs in order to pass. So you vote high or anything else.
They already
Yeah, I
did
need
that
a
when
few
they
minutes,
passed
so-
the marijuana thing.
Did what?
Voted high.
Ah!
I'm here what day is it? Wednesday. I'm here every Monday. I'm here every Friday. I'm here all the time. Free.
I still need a few minutes,
All right, so just give us a couple more minutes. Yeah. I need that.
I can't wait to get yelled at tomorrow, but I feel like we did good work, guys. I really do.
Hey, you know
So
something?
listserv.
It was work.
Oh, yeah, the listserv is gonna be on fire, but we did a really good job. High five, everyone.
I'm very proud of anybody
This is
here
the
to be
easy
a part of
part.
it.
And we're gonna get
Volunteer.
working harder
I don't think the list service going to.
right
I
away.
don't know if everybody saw it. Because it got buried kind of quickly. but
breaking
I
up.
would be more than happy to volunteer to head a work group. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I would be more than happy, once I'm done with this neck surgery, I'd be happy to head a work group looking for corporate funding and private philanthropy for the fireworks, what is it? Fireworks, flowers, and
lights.
there was a third thing.
Lights.
Lights, thank you.
I just have to say, I think you guys are really good at hashing things out. I was very impressed. This is the first time I've ever listened to this group. And
Oh,
yeah, 10 thumbs up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
That's
Can we
Rebecca.
record that?
Who
so
was
we
that?
have that as a.
Rebecca Mitchell.
Put that on our homepage.
Rebecca Mitchell.
Oh.
And we voted against the thing that Rebecca is
Yeah, well,
passionate about.
yeah,
next
well, I
time-
could see where
Yeah.
you were headed, so I understand. I'll have to tell the rest of the group what the results were, but that's all right. You
And
can
she's
only do
recording.
what you can do, and it has to fit into your parameters, so that's cool. All right, that's all. I just want to thank
Thank
you all
you.
for amazing and laughter in the middle of it too. That's good.
Thanks. All right,
I'm done.
so if,
I'm done.
all right, so
Oh,
when we're done, we click on voting. Is anyone here not done? It's okay, but Marion, are you done?
I
Yeah.
just feel like I didn't spend enough money, but I guess I'm done.
How about?
All right, how about, so Patrick, are you finished?
I'm finished, yep.
Deborah,
Yep,
Mika,
yep.
and Larry?
Yep.
Oh, wait, I missed one. Sorry. We hold everybody up here.
yes, you are.
That's right.
Just
This is fascinating.
And Deborah and Michael, you've abstained at your appropriate
Yep.
places, right? Okay. And there's no other reason for anyone else to recuse themselves, right? Okay,
I think I got it.
okay. Well, you can see, so these votes are public. So we're not going to say that this is the votes. We're going to look at it again. So we've approved 19 grants out of 28 that total $303,000. And I'm going to share this now.
I've got 216,000.
Right, that's because what you voted for, but other people
Oh, I
voted for
see.
other things.
I
So this
see,
is
I
what five people voted for, yeah.
Click
Okay.
on the voting tab up here. Click on that.
So I hit voting now?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
And now for the people at home, people who are remote,
Curmudgeons here. We both got a lot of L.
this is what we voted, and this is the public record. So everyone take a look go to the voting tab and take a look. So what we voted for is expanding Wassel Weekend, EDC Digital Media Coordinator, 4th of July fireworks with the contingency of the fundraising, village beautification with the contingency of the, yeah.
Fundraising.
yeah. Again, just to say those contingencies were, we give you the half,
Yeah,
we set aside the full amount. We give you the half. We ask you to go try to fundraise. The other half is fully available to you if you just tell us you need it, that you couldn't fund. Village beautification, the exploration of the revolving loan fund, the research around that, the EDC administrator, Bookstock, Woodstock Nursery School, Woodstock Streetscape Enhancement, the grants manager, TEDx, the greeter project with the half contingency, Valefield revitalization with the plaque or placard contingency, housing advisor, the ADU pilot program, the rental incentive pilot program, startup Woodstock, the smartphone app, and expanding the welcome center hours.
I screwed up on one.
All right, go ahead. You can change your vote.
Well,
I want to keep the data recording, which is it.
the book stock thing, I remember during the conversation, gentleman expressed the desire to put out porta potties on the green. And I would approve the grant, but I
You'd have to get permitting for that anyway.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd have to get permitting for that. That's something the town will deal with.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
And Beth, sorry, maybe we can just ask Beth, well, Patrick, you're sure of that? I know Beth is sure of
Wait,
that
is
too.
Beth mad at us or not? No, Beth, how you doing?
She's still
Beth,
here?
Can you confirm
Fell
that?
asleep.
Can you confirm that or Patrick, are you sure about that? I think it sounds right. I mean, you can't. put porta
I'm
potties on
pretty
the
sure,
ground.
but I don't quote me on it.
All right, Beth, do you know the answer to that?
Elizabeth,
Actually, can I just say that,
Yes.
that any of our grants we've always sort of
Oh,
made this a
that's
standard,
right.
have to conform with the standard.
that's right.
However, if there is no requirement, on the rare chance that Patrick is wrong and that there is no requirement for that, then we would be approving it without that requirement. So
You wanna
I'm-
tag it?
Well,
Say-
personally, I'll just say on that one, I'm comfortable. I don't think Bookstock is going to do things that are
Well,
inappropriate for the community, you
Yeah.
know, so
You're comfortable with they will not be.
I'm comfortable with them using their judgment. If they, in their judgment, figure out a way to
Yeah,
put,
yeah,
The
yeah.
welcome
it-
center is gonna be open later anyway.
Yeah.
It is, so I have porta potty.
well, then-
There won't be that.
anyway, my point is I would trust them to manage, particularly with their new professional staff that we're now helping to fund.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna,
so why did you mention? It?
I think, I don't know.
I don't either.
It's not enough to make me vote against it,
Yeah,
Same here.
so.
Just trying to
Well,
cover all those
I,
bases.
I wouldn't vote against it. I would, just like the other issues where we had contingencies.
Right.
I would say that's gonna be a contingency.
Okay, well, how do other people feel about that then, about adding that contingency? Before discussion, let's just kind of quick show of hands to see if we need to discuss it. Who would be in favor of adding that contingency?
Can you express the contingency clear? I'm not
But they
exactly
do not
sure.
use porta potties during book stock. They use the public bathrooms
On the green.
on the green. No porta potties on the green is what I'm saying.
Who would feel comfortable?
Ever seen porta potty on the green?
Huh?
Has there ever been a porta potty
What
on the
about
green?
those fancy?
I've never seen one.
The
So
wedding
why,
ones.
so why
All right.
start now?
Well, let's just say, who would like to add that? Who would like to vote on that as a contingency rather than voting on it just without the contingency, which we've done?
I don't
Who would like to
I don't
revote?
want-
Mika, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I don't want there to be porta potties on the green either, but if there were those like really nice porta potty trailers that you see at the weddings, you know, on the side or something, I don't know. I feel like Bookstock isn't gonna
Yeah.
do anything off
Yeah.
brand.
Off brand.
So I don't think, it doesn't sound like there's support for making that a
Okay.
contingency. I think
We
we all,
can raise it.
I think we should communicate to them that that's a feeling but I trust them to manage the
All right.
event, basically.
All
So-
right.
All right, are there any other, so we've got this slate.
Wait.
I want,
Deborah, go ahead.
yeah, I would love to be a part of a working group to help with the preschool problem. Those issues, and I don't know if
Okay.
that is a separate working group, but I would love to be a part of like looking at solutions for creating childcare.
We'll
So-
talk about that at the April meeting. Fantastic. Yeah, that's just in a week, in 10 days or so. Any other things? Are we basically, we've individually voted on these items. Are there, does anyone see, we've allocated exactly the amount of money we said,
Exactly.
which is not, it's just the law of large numbers.
We're really amazing.
Anything else? Is there anything else? I think we have now voted to present this slate to the select board for approval.
Yes.
And I'll let you know when that meeting is going to be. It's ideally at the next select board meeting, unless it's in a day or two, in which case we may not be in the agenda. It may have to be a week or two from now. And Nikki, well, anyway, I'll let you know. Nikki, perhaps you can let us know what the select board schedule is and when we might get on the agenda. You can just send us an email or something.
Yeah, I can let you know.
Okay.
Thanks,
Is there
everybody.
anything else?
That was awesome.
I say we adjourn.
All right, there's a motion to adjourn. Is there a
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Great job.
Good job.
We are
Good
adjourned.
job, good
Thank-
job.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, take care, guys. Thank you.
I did not think we were gonna do that.